September 25th, 2018 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation. If you will all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Loving God, thank you for yet another beautiful day for us to enjoy. Lord, we continue to lift up all in the states around us and in our state who are being affected by the floodwaters. And Lord, we just continue to lift them up, and may we do all that we can to meet the needs of our brothers and sisters as they are truly suffering from this natural disaster. And thank you for those who are gathered here tonight. Bless them for their care that they have for our schools, for our students, and for our staff. And Lord, we lift up our students that we are recognizing tonight, our 2018 National Merit semifinalists. Lord, we are proud of each and every one of them and for their hard work that they are putting into their education. And Lord, I ask for your guidance and for your wisdom and your support as we begin this meeting. Lord, help us to have meaningful and productive discussions, and let us always seek truth, for without truth we have no foundation. Amen. Okay, board members, you have our agenda in front of you this evening. I do not believe we have any changes to our agenda, so do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Okay, Ms. Vice Chairman Barr, second, Mr. Singletary, all in favor? Wonderful, thank you. This time I would like to recognize Dr. Kenneth Symington as we recognize our 2018 National Merit semifinalist. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair Jones, Dr. Emery, members of the school board. Tonight, as it is our custom each October, or almost October, we recognize our National Merit semifinalists. And imagine this, if you will. 1.6 million students last October took the PSAT as they began their journey towards college. 16,000 of those students, or 1%, are being recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation as being eligible for one of their scholarships. Tonight, we get to recognize students from 4 of our high schools who have demonstrated outstanding performance on their PSAT. And this year, they will continue to demonstrate that excellence as they apply for the scholarships by completing an application, a confirming SAT score, an essay, and a support letter from a school official. So at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to our semifinalists, who will, throughout the year, progress to become finalists, we are confident, and in the end, be eligible for one of the prestigious National Merit Scholarship Corporation scholarships valued at $2,500. So we look forward to seeing each of them in the spring. So we'll ask each of them to come forward, and as we call their names, we'll ask their parents and family members to please stand. First, from Atkins A&T High School, we have Adam Ernest. His parents, please stand. Principals, Mr. Joe Childers. Also from Atkins, Aaron Petty. Also from A&T, Siraj Upadhyay. Officer Raj and I were having a little practice in the back room. From Reagan High School, Hamani Bhatt. Also from Reagan, Davis Cook. Proud principal in the corner, Mr. Brad Royal, taking pictures. From Reynolds High School, William Sherman. And Luke Stevens. And principal is Dr. Leslie Alexander. I did not call Sunny Lee, who I understand is at a game this evening, also from Reagan High School. And finally, from West Forsyth High School, Davis Hunt.
Can we give another round of applause to our students? Board members, that concludes our special recognitions for this evening. That moves us into public comments on agenda items. I believe we had a new video talking about signing up and all the protocols, so thank you to our communications department for doing that. We will place a timer. It's not to be intimidating. It will go off when it does. If you will just kind of wrap up your thought at that moment. We do want to make sure that we can hear comments from everyone who has signed up to speak, and we have maybe 2.5 sheets. So at 3 minutes apiece, we'll be here for a little bit of time, but we want to make sure that we are fair to everyone. So thank you. When your name is called, if you will come up front here, and then begin. Okay, Ms. McCaskill. Yes, you're right. Perfect.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones and board. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about low-performing schools today and the growth that we have made. I'm coming from Ashley Academy, where we showed tremendous growth last year, about almost 8%, 8 points. I'm sorry, 8 points. So I just want to talk to you about a few things that helped us get there. Starting off, our SIG grant was a huge help. It helped us with hiring more bodies, programs for our students, as well as being able to support us with Dr. Elliott, who also helped us with our MTSS program, which I believe had a great impact on moving our scores. We were able to create a spreadsheet of every student in our building, every scholar, in our building, and we placed their scores for quarter tests. We placed their EOG scores, their reading levels, their report card grades, and our wonderful team made it so if the scores are lower than what we consider proficient in Ashley, they ring either yellow or red. So now we have a spreadsheet that we can be strategic about on the how and when and where we are going to help these students reach their potential. Also, we have a program that's Teachers for Teachers there. It's strictly made by teachers, and we give teachers, new teachers to Ashley and new teachers to the district supports, just to try to help them overcome any kind of challenges that new teachers face, and to try to keep them at Ashley because we have awesome students and they deserve the best teachers there. Also, our care team at Ashley, they've done an awesome job pulling in our community, our parents, scholars, and teachers, so to make sure that we are all on one accord at Ashley Academy. And just the whole morale of our school around our new vision and our mission, I believe that played a great part as well. All the teachers believed that we could make it and make an achievement, achieve our goals, and we did. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Julie?
Good evening. I am a teacher at Diggs Latham Elementary School. Thank you for letting me speak again tonight. There are plenty of people behind me that I know will speak to the controversy over a supplement or a one-time bonus, so I'm not really going to touch on that. But I would like to talk about budget, and I think that we as a state at all levels need to really adjust our attitudes towards education and budget and the kind of money that we are spending. I know that you folks are very limited with what you're given and trying to do the budget that we have, but we are being asked to do with less and less and less. We started this school year at the elementary level with virtually no textbooks. NCDPI was cut by budgets, and they have been trying to do tools for teachers. Well, guess what? They are so overworked, it is full of mistakes. It's really bad when your third grade student points out mistakes in your math assessment task that you're giving to them. But it's a reality. Staff is being cut. I walk in the door at 7:30, and I don't. That's what time I have to walk in. I would never get anything done that needs to get done if that's when I showed up. But I have students that I'm monitoring at 5 after 8, and the only other time during the day when I do not have students is during a planning period that's 40 minutes. A lot of times that planning period is taken up with test training or a meeting or whatever. So I actually have very little time during the day, 75 minutes total in an ideal world, where I have to make copies because I have no textbooks. I have extensive lesson plan making because I don't have textbooks to support. I have to call parents. I have to create PEPs. I have to do training sessions. I have to talk to parents. I have to have parent-teacher conferences. I have to grade work. I have to get that grading into the grade book. And you can't do that between 7:30 and 3:15 in the afternoon. It's impossible. Right now, I'm in the middle of assessing. We are doing diagnostic with iReady. iReady says you should have that closely monitored. I can't do that because I need to be doing dibbles over here and hope my students can stay on task. I have nobody to help me with that. My children, 3rd grade, I have 6 that came to me reading at 2nd grade level or above. I have 20 minutes of help per day with those children. 20 minutes of help per day, 22 children. We can't do it on the budget we're running at a local level. We can't do it on the budget we're running at a state level. We can't do it on how strict down our staffing is. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Beverly Miller?
Hello, Chairperson Jones, the board, and Dr. Emery. I am a teacher assistant at Conoke Elementary School where I do MAP Core 3 with EC children. I am here on behalf of the teacher assistant. I'm also here to reply back to your video, Dr. Emery, where you say, just ask me. I want to ask you that while you are brainstorming about supplements for the classified, please consider supplement for the back up, I'm nervous. While you're asking for supplement for the certified, please consider supplement and a little bit extra for the classified. While we are more than grateful for the 2% that we received from the state, I didn't get one. It still doesn't come to help us with our out-of-pocket expenses that we, too, spend on our children. Now, when we know that our bus drivers begin their day at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. to pick up children, to the cafeteria workers that are there at 6:30 a.m. to start breakfast for our children, and then there are us, the teacher assistants that start their day at 7:30 a.m. to greet the students, for the car riders, the bus lot, and the walkers. Some of us are classified or still having to work a second job just to make ends meet. All we're asking for is a little bit more so that we can live too. I'm just asking you. Thank you.
Rhonda Mays?
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, the board, and Dr. Emery. As president of the Forsyth County Association of Educators, I represent all of our members in this district. I have had the pleasure of hearing members' thoughts and concerns from both sides of an issue. Tonight, I will speak on the budget, more specifically, the supplement and the bonus. I have heard from educators who receive a supplement and from educators who are not eligible to receive a supplement. One point that each side agrees on is that there needs to be a plan to increase and fund the supplement. Many are appalled by how far behind Forsyth is compared to other districts in the state, including those much smaller. The $300 bonus would be a lot more than many would see in a supplement increase. Classified educators want to know if the bonus being given is a show of appreciation and respect, then where is their bonus? Where is their respect? A great deal of time has been spent exploring the supplement. What will be done going forward to assure that the supplement is fully funded and that it's sustainable for the coming years? How will all educators be showed appreciation and respect by this board and the district for their hard work, dedication, and commitment? It is vital that educators' voice is interwoven into these conversations and the decisions that are made. The time is now for all educators to be respected as professionals. Our goal and our job is to make certain we have a public school system where all of our children have an opportunity for success, regardless of the zip code of that school or the children who attend the school. And we also want to make certain that we're all able to retain and attract educators to this district. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Val Young.
Good evening, Chairperson Jones, Dr. Emery, board members. My name is Val Young. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Ashley Academy, and I'm a proud member of FCAE. I'm speaking as an individual. First, I'd like to thank you for allowing us time to be a part of this conversation about the supplement. When I think of Winston-Salem-Forsyth County School System, I think of us as a top 5 district. And that being said, I think that our supplement should reflect us being a top 5 district. When I think of myself and all the people in this room are being top educators, sometimes we're given tasks that are unbelievable. But we make it happen every day for every scholar that we have in our classroom. And I am just here to ask you to look at that supplement, look at what we do on a daily basis, and just give us what we deserve. I believe that Winston-Salem-Forsyth County is going to be in the top 5, and not just having people in front of us, but being the leaders. So I want our supplement to look that way. I want our pay to look that way so that we can retain and recruit the best of the best for our children, because they are our future in Winston-Salem. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I ask that you look at a plan so that we can move forward with our supplement in making that plan, making sure that we have the big thing, funding for that plan to be sustainable. And as you do your work, we promise we're going to do our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Mr. Jabbar?
Good evening, School Board Chair, members of the School Board, Dr. Emery. You know, it's amazing when I sit back there and watch all y'all smile about what these teachers talking about. But we're looking for action, not smiles. We're looking for action. As I was sitting today pondering about this issue with supplement, and I thought about how much fallout is a result of this. Just think about this. I don't feel valued as a teacher. And feeling undervalued, I gotta teach a kid. I gotta deal with all these issues that comes with the kid. And you expect me to perform on a high level when you don't even think enough of us. When you go before the Board of Commissioners to even entertain a supplement. But yet, you come back and do a video and you proclaim to be the victim. Help me with this. Help me with this. It is disrespectful to all of these people who work tireless. And I know they work tireless because I volunteer in the school system. But yet this is what we do to them. By the time they get a supplement and the taxes come out, they don't have nothing. So what does the supplement mean when you lagging so far behind? I mean, it was amazing to hear Buncombe County. Where's Buncombe County? Asheville. And they do a better job of supplementing their teachers than we do in Forsyth County. That's sad. That's sad. That's disrespectful to these teachers sitting here today. And then you're going to determine who's going to get a piece of the pie with the bonus. This is a team. We got components to this team. Now you try to come back and get a teacher's $300, but you disrespected everybody else too. I can't figure it out. You know, we come before y'all time and time again asking for transparency. And trust us. How can we? You're not being transparent. You're not looking after people who are the most valued resources to our children. And it's crazy. It's just crazy. But guess what? The blood is off our hands.
Tripp?
Thank you. Dr. Emery, Chairwoman Jones, members of the board. My name is Tripp Jeffers. I teach history and philosophy at Parkland High School, and I'm a former FCAE president, speaking as an individual. I'm also one of the 4 authors of the social media thunderclap event last Sunday afternoon, which began the whirlwind in which we currently find ourselves. I have taken part in countless board finance committee meetings, work sessions, and understand the complexity. I understand it for the last 10 years under a funding formula for which Commissioner Marshall and Dr. Martin worked tirelessly. We have needed less public pressure, less podium pounding. That, however, does not lessen the need for advocacy in a different form. Before we released the now infamous Just Ask video 150 times simultaneously last Sunday, September 16th, ironically 4 months after our May 16th rally in Raleigh, we did our research. Let me say at this point that I'm fully aware of how the county budget presentations work, and that one presenter under the spotlight doesn't, quote, just ask. While Dr. Emery has clearly been a lightning rod because she was the one at the podium, the superintendent may only just ask what the board just asks her to just ask. So I am less disturbed by the 7-minute truncated video than I am about the events or the lack of events by the board since May 10th. I am less concerned with words than I am with actions. We have heard that these things take time. We have heard that plans have been in the process since February or March. We've heard to just ask me. Well, if it takes me 7 months to write a lesson plan, you would have probably fired me by now. Or more complexly, if it had taken me that much time to complete my professional development plan, or Parkland to complete its school improvement plan, I would be on an action plan, and my school would probably be taken over by the state. I will be first to say that I believe everyone on this board has the heart in the right place. You all say the right words. You say that you favor an increase in supplements and that you support and appreciate us, but words are only words. And one fact remains. In the last 5 years, we have received a brand new Board of Education and a new superintendent. And in that time, we have fallen from 8th in the state to 26th. 8 spots since the May 10th meeting. When I came here in 2004, we were 3rd. During that same 5 years, we have crescendoed to no fund balance. From no fund balance to $12 million. We need you to put your money where your words are. And so, in short, we are here tonight to put you, Democrats and Republicans, on an action plan. We want to see action, and we want to see a plan, and we want to see it by Election Day. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing what your progress is that we know you are capable of. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie.
Hi. Excuse me. My name is Katie Maloney. I teach middle school French at Paisley IB. I'm kind of with Tripp. I don't know that I can get his crescendo that he did, though. But this is my 7th year teaching, 6 of which have been in Forsyth County. And when I started in the county 7 years ago, this supplement was 8th in the state, as you've just heard. Counties that we'd expect to be ahead of us, you know, Mecklenburg, Wake, Guilford, counties with big cities. So I brought a chart to show you. So this is where we were in 2013 when I started. This is where we are now. So the average back then was 4,268. The average now is 3,727. Now I know that our supplements have not gone down. It's because our veteran teachers have gone. Our salary in general has gone down thanks to our NCGA, and we're losing our veteran teachers. And I'm concerned about that because I wouldn't be the teacher that I am without the veteran teachers around me. I wouldn't be able to teach them without their help and support. And with us losing veteran teachers, we can't provide to our kids. I know a lot of teachers at my school are lateral entry. A lot are new teachers. They look up to, well, me a little bit, the teachers that have been there a lot longer, even more. And with a $300 bonus, that's not going to go into our veteran teachers' retirement funds. That's not going to increase their salaries. A supplement will help that. And we need to keep those veteran teachers and help those veteran teachers. So I'm asking you to please consider that and encourage and support that and keep our veteran teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Jordan.
Good evening, Dr. Emery, Chairwoman Jones, and Board of Education. My name is Michelle Jordan, and I've been an educator since the mid-90s, living in Forsyth County since '99, and in our school system since 2004, and I have 3 children that are currently in our school system. And I am, along with Tripp and Katie, responsible for what went out this weekend. And I've come to address my concerns regarding the budget, especially this teacher supplement. Just ask. Those were the words that exploded from my lips, and I'm sure from countless other educators as we watched the May 10th County Commissioners meeting. And the commissioner practically begged Dr. Emery to do just that, ask. The sentiment behind just ask is that we need real action on teacher supplements and other issues in our county. We need the Board of Education and our superintendent to always be proactive in asking our county commissioners. It's the job of our elected officials and our superintendent to do just that, ask. What this brings to light is a pressing issue about a lack of transparency and communication on a few fronts. First, among the Board of Education, central office, and other elected officials, as illustrated by the fact that not all of you were aware of what was said at the May 10th meeting. It should have been brought back as a priority to all Board of Education members immediately. It also shows a lack of communication and transparency to us, your staff. We were too unaware. First, that a request for funds to increase supplements was never even on the table. And second, that the county commissioners were willing to give more money if a plan had been presented. Which brings to me another important point, the timeline, past, present, and future. Why were other counties able to raise their supplements when we were told that your request was hinged on the state releasing their budget and what they were willing to finance? All districts were in the same boat, but yet they've raised their supplements this year. Is there something that can be done this school year in addition to the one-time bonus that you're talking about voting on today? And what will be a timely plan moving forward in order to submit a request for a supplement increase in this next year's budget cycle? This is an important issue in retaining and recruiting staff. We need to be competitive with urban and surrounding districts. We should not have dropped from 8th in the state in 2013 to 18th in May, and another several spots to 26th just since May in August. A supplement increase shows stability. A supplement increase shows respect. It is time that the teachers in our county are not just shown gratitude, but that are shown respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Ms. Bottoms?
Hi, thank you for having me today. I'm actually a parent in a sea of educators. My name is Sherry Bottoms. I am a local business owner and a mother. I'm here in support of teachers and competitive pay structure. I have been involved in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools for 15 years. I have 4 children graduated, and my youngest is in middle school. Thank God. I am pleased my children were educated in a diverse community, and programs allowed them to excel in numerous activities in the community. I have participated in PTA, boosters, scholars programs, community activities, etc. The relationship between parents and teachers is essential to ensure academic and social development of the students. I currently work with several teachers who are working 2 jobs just to make a livable wage. They choose their profession with the understanding that money is not priority, but are swept away in the administrative process. Setting a competitive scale and supplement will provide a foundation for teachers to choose Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and retain these highly needed individuals as parents We should support these efforts. Public education is fundamental and is fundamental in a strong community, and we are setting the standard. And I appreciate you guys for your time, and I wanted to represent parents in the community as well, so that they understand that we're behind them as well.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson?
Good evening. My name is Chanel Thompson. I'm the founder and owner of Brick by Brick Consulting. I am also the author of the podcast that was aired on last week, Just Us versus Just Ask Me. And Brick by Brick, we focus on racial equity and social justice for people of color, women, and other marginalized groups. And when I heard the controversy that was going on, I felt that it was my duty to lift this conversation up in a way that would be available for everyone to listen to. So as an advocate, I come today to implore you not just to focus on teacher supplements, but to increase wages. The issues that we have in this room today speak to two things. 33% of families in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County are asset poor. That means 1 in 3 teachers are not able to maintain their households for 3 months if they were to lose any income, and that in and of itself is an atrocity. So while we're not only talking about supplements, we need to talk about why is it that we have teachers in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County that cannot afford the basic things that they need. And when we stand and we make statements that say we must put our children first, the entire equation is wrong. If we don't put the people that stand in front of the whiteboards on a daily basis first, if their needs are not met, if they do not feel valued, we will not continue to be able to educate students who will be National Merit Scholars. I too have graduates of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. I graduated in 1990 from Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. Teaching was one of the best professions. I have a daughter who is now teaching that has considered leaving teaching because she cannot afford the things that are important. And so when I see teachers sitting in this sea of red and they don't have the things that they need and they say that they feel disrespected, it leads me to say what happens in our next generation when we don't have these teachers that say, I cannot afford to stay in this profession. So when we say just ask and just ask me, we've got 3 things we've got to ask. Number 1, what about them? At the end of the day, it all comes down to the teachers. And if they are not being taken care of, we might as well close up shop and send all our children to charter schools and send them all to home schools. The second thing we must remember is we should never have teachers needing to work 2 jobs when they show up 30 minutes before work and 30 minutes after on a minimum basis, and then they have to go to work somewhere else to make their basic needs be met. I'm asking you all, these teachers, they work for you, and you need to make sure you are the #1 employer in Winston-Salem. Give them some more money. They deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy?
You mean Swan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's me?
That's you.
Okay.
I'm just mixing
Just
the
making sure
last
you call me
name,
first. I don't
first
know how
name.
many Roys in the house.
Just
My name is Roy Swan. Good evening to the board and Dr. Emery. I've come to speak on behalf of the priority schools, or what we call our low performance schools. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Ashley Academy. I'm in my 16th year of teaching and my 6th year at Ashley. And I'd like to thank the board for allowing us, for me this opportunity to speak tonight. This past school year, 2017-2018, at Ashley Academy, we had a growth increase of 7.4, and that's nearly 8%, which was told you by Ms. McCaskill. And this hasn't been done, last time this was done was 5 years ago. And I just want to let you know tonight some of the contributing factors that were involved in this process which helped us reach growth. We're very thankful to have the visionary leadership of our principal, Ms. Scarlett Linville, who boldly incorporated some new innovative programs at our school. Last year, our school was introduced to the American Reading Company, which is a literacy program that is designed to transform both teacher and student into advocate readers. this dramatically changed the learning culture at our school. Students read more at school and at home at their own reading levels with books that were designed to captivate their interests. Also, the Ready and Our Ready program, reading program, has been very effective tool for reaching growth. This is a technology-based reading program that enhances student reading through a diagnostic and individualized lens tailored to student skill sets. I'd also like to note that this summer, we went through a renovation program that impacted the physicality and the morality of the school environment, which is reflective in the current culture and climate of the campus. And we're very thankful for the investment, I may say temporary investment, that was made at Ashley School. And it is my solemn hope that this board deems it necessary that this cultural, collaborative, and communal transformation continue to evolve with the outstanding students that are present and future. And I would hope that we would also continue to make major investments in our low-performing schools, so these individuals can be productive and progressive citizens in America. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Samuel Ball.
Good evening, Chairman Jones, Dr. Emery, members of the board. Thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Samuel Ball. I'm a 6th grade math teacher at Philo Hill Magnet Academy. I'm also a proud member of FCAE, and I'm speaking tonight as an individual. I'm an early career educator. This is only my 3rd year in the district, but in that short amount of time, I've learned quite a lot about the education system and the way things are today. One of the most critical things, the most relevant things that I've learned is that our district currently is failing our students and our teachers both. I have seen teachers leave the school mid-school year. I have seen positions remain open for months on end. I have heard teachers talk about moving to neighboring school districts because they will be treated with more respect and will be more adequately compensated for the work that we do on a daily basis. Our students deserve the absolute best. Of that, there is no question. I can't think of anyone in this room that would dispute that. But in order to provide our students with the highest possible quality of education, we have to attract and retain the highest quality educators that we can. It was not that long ago that I was still a student at Appalachian State University, and let me tell you, the students who are going through the university system and are preparing to become teachers, they know about teacher supplements. They are paying attention to that. And if we are trying to attract those high-quality educators, we have to be able to be competitive in that fact. If teacher supplements are a high priority for our budget, it should be treated as such. I can't say that grading papers is a high priority and then not do it. A one-time bonus does nothing to attract the best and the brightest and does not say to the teachers that we already have, we value the work that you do on a regular, sustained basis. On behalf of our students who deserve the best teachers and on behalf of the teachers that we already have, who deserve the support and the respect of you, the school board, I challenge you to fulfill your obligation to public education in this school district and to do what is necessary to take our district from being adequate to extraordinary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Payne.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, members of the school board, and Dr. Emery. My name is Tamala Payne, and I am a part of the mighty women, the mighty Wonder Women and mighty men who teach in this school system. I am a product of this school system. I'm a proud member of FCAE, and I teach at Northwest Middle School. I am speaking as an individual. When I saw the video on May 10th, about May 10th, County Commissioners meeting, I must say that I felt very angry. I felt there was a lack of transparency and trust. My grandma has always told me, if you say you don't eat hot dogs, then I shouldn't see you at the hot dog stand. This simply means don't say one thing and do the opposite. Saying that teacher supplement is a top priority and not showing us is not acceptable. When my school board or superintendent speaks on the subject, I want to trust that they are getting it done. I want to know that they're doing their best to add stress to my job and addressing the issues in the job that's already stressful. With all the hashtags that are being thrown around, I would like to add one of my own. Just tell me. Just tell me that you have a plan, not that you're working on one or not that you're going to get one. Just tell me that you're not going to place a Band-Aid on this, but that you're going to come up with some real solutions. Just tell me and show me that I am valued and don't do the opposite. This will build my trust and it also will show us some transparency. Please consider this when making your budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Cladwell?
Good evening. My name is Miss Constance Caldwell.
Sorry.
No
Excuse me.
problem. And good evening, Chairman, Board, and Dr. Emery. This is my first time at a board meeting. I'm proud to be here as standing in front of you as a teacher's assistant from a proud school, a Carter High School, which I work with exceptional children, which they are just great, and I love my job. Even though I have been a licensed teacher at first, but I chose to do this field because I love working with these kids. But I'm here to stand too that teachers assistants too need a raise, because as my job duties, I too assist with the teacher alone. When they're not in the classroom, we do grades, we do behaviors, we take care of the kids' needs. When the teacher's not there, we run the whole classroom. So if you was to ask Carter teachers, or when they're not there, how would that class run? They really know they need us really bad. So I'm just saying, piggyback on, teacher's assistant needs a decent pay rate, not just a little small minimum raise or 2% raise. We need a scale raise so that if you want to draw more teacher's assistant into the field, you need to raise the fee. And I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCoy?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Emery, and all others. I am Denise McCoy. I'm the proud Parent Involvement Coordinator of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. I stand before you this evening, as I have on many occasions. Tonight, I'm here to speak in support of the supplement, bonus, and or both for teachers, but please let us not forget our support staff, administrators, including all other classified positions that are held within the district, without naming them all and leaving someone out that has a direct impact on our children as well. I, along with others, would like to see unity of our school board and county commissioners support and appreciate the hard and dedicated working individuals that you all have in this great district that show up every day in all types of circumstances to do the best that they can with what they have. It does not matter if you're a school board member, a county commissioner, certified or classified. We are unified, and we need to be unified. Students are the heart of what we do, and all eyes are on us. Home, school, and community. Relationships drive student success. It's very important for all of us to foster these relationships, from the teacher to the bus driver, office staff, administration, cafeteria, county commissioners, school board. We're all in this together. People may not remember exactly what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you make them feel. Adult behavior impacts student outcomes. Whether it's a supplement, bonus, sometimes it takes a tangible deed to show appreciation. I appreciate all that you do. This is not an easy job, and I just want to say thank you, but please take into consideration we're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Ms. Scott?
Greetings to all of you. My name is Falashade Scott. Greetings, Ms. Jones, Dr. Emery, all the board, all of you here. I work at Parkland High School as a special education teacher. I love being a teacher. I love being a part of the village. We're all a part of the village. And I want to read a message that I sent to the Board of Education this morning. Good morning, good evening, Honorable WSFCS Board of Education and Dr. Emery. I pray you're well. I'm a special education teacher within the WSFCS district. As you prepare to meet this evening and vote on our budget and a teacher bonus, I'd like to ask that you please consider the great concerns and reality teachers have, especially with regard to being grossly underpaid, undervalued, and also overworked. Being overworked refers to the multifaceted responsibilities teachers have and additional responsibilities that special education teachers have that usually extend after and before school hours and beyond the classroom, then having the need to work other jobs to make ends meet due to low pay. With all that can be done with the funds in our budget, teachers should be foremost considered, as well as all other school staff that directly serve students. We're on the front lines working together as a village to develop and guide our children and youth, many of whom have many multifaceted challenges, to become wise, caring, and responsible leaders of our communities and beyond. Therefore, better care should be taken to compensate us financially and show that we are valued. You are all in my prayers, as well as Dr. Emery. Every one of us are in my prayers, that we have balance within our system. My prayer is also that God help all stakeholders, all of us villagers, to hear and see each other clearly with care and together make wise decisions and redeeming decisions that ultimately move our children, youth, families, and communities into a healthier direction. What I say to you as a hashtag, a new hashtag, is let's ask each other. Thank you for receiving and considering my message, and may you all choose well tonight. God bless you.
Thank you. I like your hashtag. I like your hashtag.
Thank you.
Ms. Ziesel?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight in support of the teachers, the kids in our district. I want to point out I work for another education institute in town, and all these teachers are here at 7:30 on a weeknight, missing dinner with their kids, putting their kids in bed. If my employer asked me to come at 7:30 at night to talk to HR about my compensation, everyone in the office would be aghast, because that's not what you do. We deal with it within work hours, and these teachers are going above and beyond their responsibilities to come and ask you to care about this. I know that you say you've been doing it since February or March. Why not in 2015? Why not in 2016? Why not in 2017? Why have we been moving in the wrong direction? I'm asking that you become the advocates for the people in this room and the people in your district. I feel like there's a bit of a pattern where you guys will respond if there is public outcry about something. People come, they organize, they get up in arms. We can't do this every 10 weeknights. Every 2 weeks we're here. So I want you to remember this turnout, remember all the other groups who have come before you, and that it's not sustainable for us to miss 1 weeknight out of every 10 nights to be here. I've got 3 kids I'm not putting in bed. I try not to be here, but when I feel like it's really necessary, sorry honey, you're doing bedtime, I'm gonna show up. Because things are not working right now in this district. The other thing I want to ask is that all committee agendas be published before committee meetings so that we know if we need to show up at committee meetings. Because right now we don't know what's going to get talked about at 4 p.m. Do I need to take off work to try to show up to that because something important is going to get talked about? Can those get video recorded as well so that we can watch them if we're not able to make the meetings? As everyone's saying, we need more transparency. We need more ways to be involved rather than just being here, because this is not something we can do all the time. The last thing I'm going to ask is that you also talk to the state about this. You know that we have ears at the state, people who will listen to you, and if you say we can't do more because we don't have more, ask them for more and tell them that it matters to us.
Thank you. I know we can't address everything that's here, that's why we're writing it down, but Alex, are our committee meeting agendas posted on the website?
Only building and grounds right now.
Only building and grounds right now? Okay. I just wanted to clarify that was a question. Okay. Katie. Yep. Yes. I get to see you a lot, so I thought we might be on a first name basis.
First name basis now. Good evening. Like you guys, you know who I am. Been here before. I actually read the board book this time. I don't know if there's anybody else here, but I took time to read the board book, and I was shocked at a few of the charts in the board book. Well, not shocked, because I kind of expect it. This one about the Title I low-performing schools of the large urban comparisons. We have more percent of low-performing schools than Wake County, almost double what Wake County has. More than Cumberland County, more than Charlotte-Mecklenburg, more than Durham, more than Guilford County. We're the worst one in the state when it comes to urban counties. That is not okay with me, and I don't think it's okay with them either. And we have gotten worse in the past few years. This other chart from the needs assessment about EOGs and EOCs. I just have an elementary schooler. I don't know what EOCs are. Anyway, for Forsyth County schools, we're the worst of the urban districts again, of all the students, of black students, of Hispanic students. Why are we at the bottom? You're asking us to ask you, we are asking you to do better. We are asking you right here, right now. People are asking you. We've been asking, we're asking you to make a bigger pie. The county commission is asking you to make a bigger pie. It's not about cutting up the same pie. There is money. Ask for it. Lots of people have spoken tonight on the importance of increasing pay for teachers and staff, and I fully support them. Pay them more. They deserve it, and so do the cooks, the people in the school office, the people on the buses, the facilities, the janitor that helps my kid clean up his tray when he drops it in the cafeteria once a week. They are what make the school go round. Make a bigger pie for everyone. And it's not just about teacher pay or educator pay. It's about the facilities and the equipment that the teachers are given and the resources. We've had other people here talking about it tonight. They've been asking you and begging you to address this for months, for years. Tens of thousands of teachers asked you to address it this spring in Raleigh. And I'm asking you to address the situation at Ashley, the situation at Diggs Latham that you heard about at the last board meeting. That's horrendous conditions. Other speakers tonight have spoken about this, about the poor facilities and lack of materials. We are asking you to respect the teachers, respect the students in this district, and now we're asking you to show us. November 6th is coming up. Every single seat at that table is up for re-election, or election, or not. We will show up. As you can see on my shirt, it says, when people vote, democracy wins. I'm part of Women of Action here. We ask people, we're supposed to ask 5 people to vote. I'm asking everyone here, November 6th, to vote.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, did you want to speak on an agenda item?
I'm coming to speak right now.
Okay. You just don't have a topic listed.
Miscellaneous.
Well, so
I'm here.
Mr. Harvey, at this point, though, to be fair to everyone, because other people are signing up later, on agenda items.
Schools.
Okay.
That's what
Just
I'm here to talk about, low performance schools.
Thank you.
I know you're going to try to cut me off at the pass, but I'm here. Chairman Jones, distinguished board, and Dr. Emery. I visited the central office, and I looked on an elevator door, and I saw something that caught my eye. By 2018, we will close the achievement gap between subgroups by 10 percentage points while increasing the performance of all subgroups. It is 2018. How transparent are you with the general public as to where we stand with this particular initiative right here? Where are we? Where are we? If we are where we are with school supplements, then I know we're in no place, because we did not go to the school or go to the county commissioners with a cogent proposal. Never heard anything like that in my life. Just going somewhere without a cogent plan, a way to ask for something. You have not because you ask not. That's biblical. You know, if you ask for it, you'll get it. I'm asking you right now as a board, because it says, if you want to know, ask me. So I want to ask everybody on this board, where do we stand? Are we moving forward in that 10% subgroup gap? Are we closing the gap? The reason I asked that question, because I was at a meeting one time and we said we were making incremental gap steps. I think Dr. Emery said that. She remembers that meeting. She said that. Incremental. We're in 2018. Have we reached the 10% achievement increase between subgroups in Forsyth County? I'd like to know. And in particular, I'm still talking about Ashley. We still want a new school. On behalf of the 14th Street Alumni Group, of which I am the president, we want a new school on site, 14th and Cameron, that will emphasize math and science. The reason we want that school, because we know we got a lot of untapped energy and intellect in our community that's not being tapped. And we want this school board to rise up and do what they're supposed to do. Not sit back and hold everybody back, not sit back and play petty mind games with people, but get up off you and do what you're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. That concludes public comments. We will move in now to our discussion items. First up, Lionel Cato, as we review our school improvement plans.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, members of the board, and Dr. Emery. I stand before you tonight to share information on our school improvement planning processes and to discuss specifically our low-performing schools plan going forward through the rest of this year. I will start with a quote of why is school improvement planning important. course, communicating expectations for school performance is important, but ratings will only get us so far unless they are accompanied by meaningful action to improve. Once a school is identified as needing improvement, school and district leaders, families, and community members must figure out what to do to better serve students. This is a quote from the Education Trust, and of course is why we are here and we do the work that we do on a daily basis. Another quote, many of the important decisions about how to support schools to improve will be made by districts and schools, but states make a number of key decisions that can either support or derail the school improvement process, including setting reasonable timelines, streamlining planning requirements, deploying improvement dollars fairly and effectively, and providing clear and consistent guidance. So under the North Carolina law, after schools are designated with the label of low performing, the superintendent has to make recommendations to the board regarding principals, which is in progress. We have to submit preliminary plans to the board to improve both school performance grade and school growth score, which our schools will have their school improvement plans completed by September 28th, their preliminary plans in draft form by September 28th, this Friday. Then we ask that the school board approve, modify, or reject those plans by October 24th at the October 23rd board meeting. And we will submit a final plan at the end of November. And each low performance school is required to inform parents of the low performance status of their school in writing by October 3rd, which is in progress. The Department of Public Instruction will review each plan for low-performing schools and provide feedback via NC STAR, which is the platform that we use for our school improvement planning. At that time, once the plans are, the feedback is received, the local board will, of course, consider those recommendations, and we will provide access to those final plans on our school system website. What is a low-performing school? Well, low-performing schools are identified by the state board annually, and in order to be considered low-performing, a school has to receive a performance grade of a D or a F and a school growth score of met expected growth or does not meet expected growth. There are some schools that have been in this status for at least at a minimum 2 out of 3 years, and those schools are called recurring low-performing schools. This is the current list of low-performing schools that were identified at the beginning of September by the state board. And here's the list. I won't read those to you, but I will summarize that we had 3 schools that exited low-performing status last year, those being Cook, Kimball Farm, and Union Cross. However, we had 2 new schools go on to the list, and Moore, Magnet, and Southeast Middle, and Parkland, Petrie, Ward, and Wiley were off of the list, and they went back on last year. So total, we had an increase of 3 low-performing schools, and when last year we had a decrease of 9, but there's been some ons and offs of the list, so we are up by 3 schools. Our recurring low-performing list is here. These schools have been low-performing, designated low-performing 2 out of the last 3 years. And again, I won't read the list to you, but it is important to note that Carver, Flat Rock, Griffith, North Forsyth, and South Fork exited this list last year. And then we had some schools go back on the list because they did not meet growth, or they had that the D or the F last school year. So we're down 4 schools on the recurring low-performing schools list. This is a comparison to the state of how many low-performing school districts there are, which we are not one, but there are 8 low-performing school districts in the state. There are 480 identified low-performing schools across the state of North Carolina, and there are 26 here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth. and recurring low-performing schools across the state last year. There were 436, and here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth, there were 25. So this is our school improvement cycle that we use here in our district and drives our school improvement planning. We train schools on how to conduct comprehensive needs assessments. There are times when we have outside agencies come in and conduct these for us, whether it's DPI. Several of our high schools are undergoing accreditation right now through Advanced Ed, and they also come in and conduct these needs assessments. Then we ask the schools to assess indicators in NC STAR. Indicators are research-based practices that are proven to move schools forward. And once they assess those indicators, they become objectives. And they create a plan using those objectives by adding actions to the objectives. And then the team monitors those, the progress towards completion of those objectives, and the cycle repeats itself. The low performance school plan, as I stated earlier, is each school's individual school improvement plan, and we have some district measures that we are putting in place and enhancing upon to also respond at the district level to our low performing school needs. The low performing school plans, of course, will be submitted through NC STAR, and the school improvement plan is created using primarily there's 12 key research-based indicators in NC STAR, but there are 125 total indicators from which to choose. NC STAR allows some shared decision-making and school-wide accountability, and in addition to that, every school in our district, whether they're low-performing or not, is assigned an instructional superintendent who provides monthly coaching comments to the school on their school improvement plan and the progress of their plan. Every low-performing school is assigned a coach at DPI in addition to their instructional superintendent's comments, so that's an additional level of support. And these plans can be found at www.industar.org, and there's a guest login process which all of the board members should have in your packets. Last year, we transitioned to district-wide use of NC STAR for all schools, regardless of whether or not they were low-performing or receive federal funds. So every school in our district uses NC STAR. And this is just a review of some of the vocabulary of NC STAR. Indicators become objectives, and the wise ways of the research-based evidence that gives examples of how the school improvement team should use the indicator to improve the school. And the actions, of course, are those things that the schools put in place and act upon to make sure that the research-based objective is being implemented and accomplished. These are the 12 key research-based indicators that we use and we focus on. Of course, A107 relates to teachers and classroom management. A204, standards aligned units of instruction. A401 relates to tiered instructional systems, which we've been implementing MTSS across our district for the past couple of years. This is our last year of, last cohort of implementation of the MTSS model. A406 is required of all Title I and low-performing schools to complete and make a plan for, related to tending to students' emotional states and arranging for supports and interventions. A416 relates to student transitions. B101 is our district indicator, and our district, our executive cabinet at the district level functions as the LEA support and improvement team, and I'll get a little bit more detail on that in just a moment. B103 relates to having a leadership team led by the principal and leaders of instruction. B203 talks about duties and instructional planning. B303 is required of all schools in the district to complete, and that is the principal's plan to monitor curriculum and instruction regularly and give feedback to teachers. C201 is required of all schools in the district, and that requires schools to regularly look at school performance data and classroom observation data and use it effectively. C304 is a human resources goal related to recruiting, evaluating, rewarding, and replacing staff. And E106 is required of all Title I and low-performing schools and relates to home and school relationships and parental involvement. In your packet, you will see a list of the low-performing schools, their websites, and the guest login for the NC STAR School Improvement Plan for your review over the next few weeks. Also in your packet, there's a NC STAR there's instructions on how to actually log into the system and view the different components of the plan. This information is also going out to schools to be shared with parents, and it's also on their websites. So I mentioned earlier District Indicator B101 relating to the LEA having a support and improvement team. Executive Cabinet is the primary component of this support and improvement team, and we meet weekly to discuss plans to improve school performance across the district. Additionally, the instructional superintendent team meets monthly, we meet weekly as well, but we will also meet monthly to review and provide feedback on school improvement plans. Our SIG, CSI, and a subset of TSI schools, which those are new labels that will be unveiled in a couple of days at the state board, formerly priority and focus schools, participate in Inspire 340 initiative, and they also receive additional feedback on their plans and their progress from Dr. Roseborough, who oversees that initiative, and a state level coach, in addition to whoever supervises, whichever instructional superintendent supervises those schools. Additionally, the district provides training and support at least 4 times a year on the CNA process, analyzing data, setting goals, and aligning and selecting correct NC STAR indicators for school improvement. This is a new a tweak that we're making to some of the learning walks that we used to do in the past. We're going to have monitoring visits, and schools are tiered based on their past performance and related to growth. And based on the tier, those schools will receive 2, 3, or 5 monitoring visits per year from district level teams on implementation of our district imperatives, balanced literacy, lesson planning, professional learning teams, discipline goal, and I'm missing the last one, gap goal, and how helping the schools monitor those things more effectively and helping the principals make sure that they're following up with district expectations more efficiently. Additionally, each low-performing school principal works through a differentiated performance plan with their supervising instructional superintendent. I will add that there are several pots of money that schools receive based on various labels, and there's some monies that the district receives from the state and then we reallocate out to the schools. And all of these are determined based on various formulas, but we have 4 schools that were considered focus schools, which again, there are no more focus schools. They've changed the label, but there were 4 schools, $100,000, and each of those schools received $25,000 each. The state sends the district at-risk funds based on the number of students who are not proficient, and that money is then reallocated out for various use. But what goes out to the schools and at risk is about $879,000. And all schools receive some money from a minimum of $1,500 for some of our smaller programs to $31,000 to use. We currently have 3 SIG schools. There were 4. One of them is no longer a SIG school. And in those 4 schools, there was a division of $937,776, and the range in what each of those schools received was $166,000 to $492,000, roughly $493,000. We have our priority schools, which again, that label no longer exists. But there was $1.2 million allocated to those schools, and it serviced 8 schools. And the range in what those schools received was $108,000 approximately to $204,000. And Title I, which we will hear from later this evening, the allocation for our district was roughly $15.6 million, and 44 schools received those funds ranging from $40,000 to $613,000 per school. To give, I'm not the expert on Inspire 340, but I will say that Inspire 340 schools, that subset of schools, have shown that the targeted professional development and activities that they engage in with teachers and principals and leadership development are paying off some dividends. If you look at the data, there's this past year we had 8 of those schools met growth and 5 of those schools exceeding growth, whereas last year, for a total of 13 of those schools, whereas last year 11 of those schools were able to accomplish that, and the year before that, this is before Inspire 340 was put in place, 7 of those schools were able to accomplish that. So there's some progress being made there with that initiative. So the next steps for the next, after September 28th, when the plans are in draft form in the system, they'll be open for public comment and comments from school board members. And this is for all schools, but we're required by the state to do this specifically for low performance schools. A preliminary approval of those plans we hope will occur on October 23rd. Final approval November 27th. And then we will have schools submit their plans officially in the system. We're going to continue, instructional superintendents along with the DPI coaches and the monitoring and support teams will continue to provide feedback and support through the remainder of the year. And we are currently in the process of working through our Imagine teams, our Imagine design teams, and those teams will be making recommendations on realigning and enhancing central office supports to all schools in the very near future. Are there any questions that I can attempt to answer?
Mr. Barr.
Dr. Cato, let me ask you a question. So what I understood is that we had how many schools that were low performing, they went off the list, then they went back on the list? Was it 4, probably, I think?
We had 3 that went off of the low performing list, okay. And then we had 6 that went on.
Okay, but there were some schools that went off the list and
came back on.
Okay,
there was 4 of those.
And I guess my question would be, I guess as you and the team looked at that, did you come up with any thoughts as to why? Was it changing leadership, processes?
It's very difficult to determine because there's so many factors that play into that type of thing. We know that historically some schools struggle historically, so they may come off, go on. There's a number of factors, and the only way that I could answer that is to look at their CNA and to kind of dig down into what actually may have happened from one year to the next that may have caused a slip. But it would vary from school to school.
Could I chime in on, so on the high schools there, I would just ask you to remember that the graduation formula changed in the second semester, and it's really a struggle, particularly for schools that have a highly transient population. they don't necessarily control kids moving in and out. And so we had that change in the formula that I know particularly for one of the high schools that came off and then back on, that was, the graduation rate was a factor. So for those of you, I'm sure our staff know, but the fact that in the past, if we have had students who moved in during their high school years, but they weren't on level to graduate with their cohort, they weren't counted against the school's graduation rate. We learned this year in the spring, when there's very little time for folks to do much about it, that those students were going to count. So if a student moved in they had the credits of a sophomore, but they were supposed to be graduating, they counted in that high school's graduation rate. And so the dip we saw this year is not necessarily reflective of the hard work people are doing as much as the fact that the formula changed on folks last minute.
And we also had something similar occur with Math 3 at the high school level as well, that was particularly impactful to some of our schools in their school performance grade at the high school level.
And Dr. Cato, we did see fewer schools on the reoccurring low-performing school list, right?
Yes,
Looks
sir.
like we had 29 last year, and we brought it down to 25 this year. And those are schools that we continue to see on that low-performing list, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Monsinger, do you have a question?
I did have a question. Are there districts that are actually really substantially able to change the number of schools on these lists, keep them off the list, and really make differences?
Districts, I would not say that there are any that particularly stand out that have been successful that consistently doing that. It's kind of ebbs and flows district-wise, but you have schools that are examples, and we have some in our own district that are examples, but we have individual schools that you can look to that have been successful in that.
Right. So I remember the Star 3 grants where there was a lot of studying, and certain schools did really well one year. And then the next year, it was a different set of schools. And I think the part that's really difficult is trying to find where are the exemplars that get off that list, stay off that list, are doing a whole other level of work, whether that's our district, other districts. Part of what's difficult is it seems that the standards keep changing. What we're supposed to do and what's getting measured shifts. There's a very complicated plan each time. And it seems to me that an awful lot of attention and energy gets tied up in following the plans instead of trying to figure out what actually really works, both in our schools and in other district schools.
Other comments or questions, board members, for Mr. Cato? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have some discussion around makeup day options for September 13th and 14th for 2018. We'll have an update from our Chief of Staff, Alex Hodgkins.
So good evening, Chair, Board, Dr. Emery. We missed school a couple of days a couple weeks ago. We got to figure out what we're going to do about those days.
We do.
And there is lots of opinion about what that should be. So I'm here to share kind of what the facts are and to share with you what the options would be. And then it is up to you to make a final determination about what we're going to actually do. So we missed September 13th and 14th due to Hurricane Florence. According to the board-approved calendar, there are 6 makeup days possible, and those days are on your screen. The first 2 that we would theoretically use would be November 21st and January 22nd. However, there are some major concerns with both of those dates that the folks in this community have expressed with great passion. November 21st is the day before the Thanksgiving holiday, and many families and staff members have already made plans to not be in town on that day. January 22nd is the teacher workday at the end of the first semester. And for all of our teachers, that day is very valuable to closing out the first half of the year and preparing for the second half of the year. So that means if we don't want to do what the board has already approved, we need to consider what are some alternatives. So the first alternative is to look at, we have teacher workdays scheduled currently on October 29th and October 30th. One of those days, right now, October 29th, is designated as a reserved for central office day, and October 30th is a teacher workday for teachers to finish up the first quarter in their classrooms. So the suggestion would be to convert October 30th, the Tuesday, to a teacher workday and change the Monday, which was supposed to be a reserve for central day, to a reserve for schools day, so that the teachers would not lose the opportunity to finish their grades. They would lose the professional development day, but they would still be able to finish up their grades at the end of the first quarter. Another option would be January 2nd, which is a leave day according to our current calendar, and was intended to extend the winter break for an extra day past the New Year's holiday. There are 2 early release days scheduled for first semester, October 17 and December 12. That would make up 4 hours out of a traditionally 6-hour school day if you chose to convert those. And our current approved calendar does allow for the conversion of early release days to full schedule days if the need becomes necessary due to inclement weather closings. Some folks had suggested November 12th, which is Veterans Day. It is a state-protected holiday according to state calendar law. It is the only specified day, other than Sundays, in the year that we cannot hold school. So I don't know why. I just know that it is. So we are not going to use November 12th as a makeup day and violate school calendar law. You're welcome, Dion. Another option is for the board to choose to forgive the days specifically for students. So now hold on. I mean, I know. I heard the start of the applause and then I heard it go away. So General Counsel Dion Jenkins and I have done some extensive research around what does school calendar law actually say and what does the contract language say, and this is what we know. Teachers are under contract for 215 days, and in order to fulfill the contract, they must work 215 days or take approved leave for not working. So that approved leave can be annual leave or it can be sick leave or other kinds of leave. We could theoretically forgive the student days and add makeup days for professional development purposes as professional development days at the end of the year. If that were to be chosen by the board, employees could choose to take annual leave for those days. So employees who have annual leave could choose to take that at that time. That would also apply in this possibility, in this option, to classified employees who would be given the opportunity for professional development on those days as well, so that they would not miss out on the wages as hourly employees that they might otherwise miss out on. So everyone would have the opportunity to make up the time and get paid for their full contract or their full wages. So lots of folks are curious about the possibility of a state of emergency forgiveness. And right now, no final decision has been made. All waivers must be approved by the North Carolina General Assembly. There is a draft bill out there that would forgive the days where a presidential state of disaster, thank you, audience members. State of disaster was declared by the president, and schools that missed more than 2 days in counties or areas where it was not declared a state of disaster. So because we only had the 2 days, we would not qualify under the draft bill that is out there floating around. I will also share that as of 4:30 this afternoon, the Department of Public Instruction sent out a survey to ask local education agencies to submit the number of days that they missed, so that they're clearly gathering data around how many total days were missed by school districts across the state, and we turned that, we've already submitted our information. So at this point, for the state of emergency forgiveness, we don't have a final decision, but clearly as of 4:30 this afternoon, there is still some exploration at the state level about what might be possible for that particular outcome. I added, just so you all know, comments that said, we would appreciate a waiver. And okay, so I was as, there was a place for optional comments, and I made some comments. So that's where we are. If you have questions or comments, I will entertain them at this time.
So Alex, I believe there's an LEA who has kind of already made an announcement. They not only were forgiving for their students, but also for their staff. And so can you, if there's no final decision made and it seems like they're, how are they doing that, right?
Sure. The real answer is we don't know.
Okay.
And but that does not mean that we have not tried. So we have reached out to their general counsel, their public information officer, and their superintendent directly, and we have not received a response that provides any information that would indicate anything that would help this board make a decision.
Because I'm assuming that would be that state funds would have to, locally, you'd have to pay state back, or there would have to be...
The only solution that we have been able to determine is using local funds to pay for everyone, even those employees who were state funded. Is that correct, Dr. Emery? Can you help me out here? Bail me out.
Yes. So the general statute will not permit a local board to waive the contracted or the pay of a state paid employee, and most of our allotted positions are state paid. So the only way that the only way we can assume a district could do that would be to pay for it out of their own dollars, but we have endeavored to get an answer, not only from that district, but my other colleagues in the urbans who are getting the same questions asked. Why can they do it and we can't? We can't get answers. What I can tell you is the other urbans share our current thinking, which is the only way that could happen would be a General Assembly waiver. We did learn today, a couple of our folks from the General Assembly have reached out to say it looks like a special session is going to be called, and they're going to look at this language. And to the bill that has been introduced, I think our folks are asking what adjustments, how would that impact us, and so one of the big pieces we've been saying is, and I say this with all love and respect, I know you all will get this after the comments we've had tonight, but not just to waive the day for people who are on the state allotment. So a lot of our classified employees are paid locally, and if you waive the day for licensed or people just on the state, it doesn't impact them. And so if we're going to waive them, not to consider just that because they didn't work, they're not missing a day, because when they don't work, they're missing the pay. And that's a factor that we always try to build into the calendar, is that we don't, even if we waive for students, that we include some opportunity for folks to make up those earnings. Two of our legislative folks that reached out to me today, I think were very licensed folk centered. So the responses I got were, aha, yes, we need to include that. And I don't know if that will go anywhere. I don't know if it will get legs beyond the 2 days that we already see in the waiver. Our folks at DPI are also telling us they also concur that the only way you could actually waive pay generated by state funds is for the General Assembly to do that. And I think that's what they're gearing up to do, is at least look at it. I don't know what the outcome will be.
Ms. Parker?
So if we do hours for students, teachers are under contract for days and not hours, and so we can't, there's no wiggle room
That is correct.
with that, with either classified or licensed.
Correct.
Okay.
I do, I think what I'm hearing is, I believe that's gonna take some time, since we're talking about General Assembly and maybe a special session, and we're not gonna know the answer for that right now. My concern, typically, we are able to forgive, you hate to even say it, that we can actually forgive days and not have to make those up. And it's very rare, it has not occurred since we've been on the board, that the November date comes into play. Usually we find those tough, snowy days after the first of the year. So I do understand that we probably need to get in front of that day, and I know it's not on our agenda for action tonight, but I'm assuming we can put that on there our next meeting in October, so that we can go ahead and let parents know. But I'm definitely in favor of getting, eliminating that makeup day and at least pushing another option, and then hopefully, just depending on how things work out with either action by the state or we have enough instruction days, we can forgive those days altogether. But just to get a message out to parents so that they are not canceling plans and that sort of thing, taking a little stress off for parents and staff.
And it is because of the uncertainty that is not on your agenda for action tonight, because we were not sure when the General Assembly was going to take action.
So I think we'll have to modify some of that and then wait later for them. Ms. Monsinger.
I'm wondering if once we have information, is that the kind of thing we could discuss at a called call-in meeting?
Absolutely.
And I think that we should just plan on that once they've met and made their decision.
Yes.
I think it's a 72-hour, but we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not on a Sunday, I guess.
Or the date in November.
Veterans Day.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
So my other question to you would be, based on your feedback, and I know we're talking about October 9th. You also have the option to amend your agenda if you wanted to take some action tonight. And I would say, based on the questions from staff and parents, if there is consensus among you on that November date, you can always say when the makeup day is not going to be. You don't have to say when it is going to be, but you could let people know it's not going to be a certain day, which would give them some breathing room. And I'm not trying to make your decision for you. I'm just suggesting that even 2 weeks is important to people at this point in terms of planning. And if that were to be your thought, we could go ahead and entertain that if you wanted to this evening.
I think that's a fabulous idea, Dr. Emery. I'm kind of getting some sense that folks want, we could do that a little bit later on, Ms. Parker.
I move we amend the agenda and that we eliminate that the first makeup day as an option for a makeup day for the hurricane days on the 13th and the 14th.
Okay, so how about Dion's looking like.
So first,
I think we have to do it.
You have to make a motion to amend the agenda, vote on that, and then at the appropriate time make a motion.
Okay,
So I'm only
She's only amending.
I'm only moving to amend the agenda on the makeup days.
So we have Ms. Parker most and second, I think Ms. Calvert Hayes beats to it, Vice Chairman. So all in favor of amending the agenda to add this removal of the one makeup day to action item. All in favor? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, we will add that on tonight for action item and a vote. Thank you, Alex and folks, for reaching out and trying to help us with some answers. Kelly. Kelly Hells will come before us to discuss our CCIP LEA Title I plan. And welcome, Kelly.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Ms. Cottle-Brown, board members, and Dr. Emery. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity tonight to give an overview regarding the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, and I will try my best not to use acronyms during this presentation. You're welcome. Tonight we'll be seeking approval of the board for the district to submit its comprehensive LEA, or Local Educational Agency Title I plan as required by DPI. During the presentation, we will, I recognize that I may be sharing information that you have not seen before, or maybe a refresher, since you only see this once a year. And I do welcome the opportunity to visit a curriculum meeting to go into sections of this any further, should that be your desire as well. Tonight I'll set the context regarding ESSA, North Carolina's role of our new legislation, our stakeholder feedback because we conducted a survey, and then also information regarding Title I schools designations, how we calculate the allocations, the planning process that Dr. Cato spoke to as well, and also our additional supplemental funding in addition to what the Title I schools receive. So ESSA, or the Every Student Succeeds Act, was signed into law in December 2015, and it replaced what we knew of No Child Left Behind. ESSA remains our nation's educational law, and it required North Carolina to submit a state plan, which was approved June 5th of the current year. ESSA requires the LEA, or the Local Educational Agency, if they are accepting Title I funding, to submit a district's Title I plan. And in North Carolina, they were ahead of the game. We actually have a consolidated plan which includes most federal programs with the exception of special education. The programs for which are included in CCIP, or the Comprehensive Continuous Improvement Plan, includes Title I Part A, which provides supplemental funding to our Title I schools. Title II Part A, which is building systems of support for excellent teaching and learning. Title III, which is for our English as a second language, or our English learners. And Title IV Part A, which is new to ESSA, which provides student support and academic enrichment grants. Stakeholder feedback is required for all of these programs. And so we did go to our internal and external stakeholders for input into our 3 goal areas. We had exactly 600 submissions. I did not round, it really came to 600. We had 381 submissions over the Labor Day holiday weekend. So we absolutely thank our stakeholders for that input. About 60% of these submissions were from parents and family members. 30% were from current employees, and the remaining percent came from our community members, which may have been former students, community members from our institutes of higher ed, in early learning, and even our faith-based communities. We reviewed the responses not by a program, by actually reading the responses and determining trends in the responses that our stakeholders provided. We're using that input to, in some cases, confirm existing strategies that we have been implementing, to enhance existing strategies, or even consideration for the development of new strategies. The stakeholder input is used for the development of CCIP, which you have tonight, and it's also being used by different departments and the district as it reviews its academic data, demographic data, and process data for improvement. Our 3 goal areas include to increase growth, proficiency, and progress for all students across all subject areas. Our second is to close our achievement gap between subgroups. And our 3rd goal area is to increase graduation rates. This is the feedback we were seeking from stakeholders and the suggestions provided with these goal areas. Here is an overview of our survey response trends by goal area. In some of the feedback provided, our federal programs can't address some of these responses because of the nature and the purpose of the programs. However, some of the trend data responses could be used by other committees, departments, divisions, or even by you as members of the Board of Education. Many of the discussions we've heard today from our stakeholders, we will see in here. And we will see, again, how can we address building professional capacity of our teachers for high-quality teaching and learning? How can we support our teachers regarding the resources they do provide, technology, instructional materials? Also increasing opportunities for parents and family to engage in the learning process to support their students and within their community. Increased support staff such as ESL teachers, special ed teachers and assistants, social workers, counselors. Within that area, we saw that across our goal areas for both our academic achievement, also our graduation rates, also to address our social emotional learning of our students as well.
Is there any balance in the way they're listed?
They are not, and thank you for asking that. This is a random order. It is not in a quantifiable piece. I was going to do it alphabetically, but then all my verbs were the same, and so changed it that way. So thank you for that question and having me. These are in no order of the quantity of responses. So having used that stakeholder feedback, speak specifically about Title I, Part A. According to the law, Title I, Part A is to ensure that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education and reach, at minimum, proficiency on challenging state academic achievement standards and state academic assessments. Title I provides supplemental funding to support improvement efforts. So it is the above and beyond of what the state and local provide as funding. The way the funding flows is it begins with the U.S. Department of Education, who allocates using a state formula which includes poverty census data to each state. North Carolina Department of Public Instruction then allocates to each participating LEA or school district. At the LEA level, we rank all schools in order of percent low income from highest to lowest. And we designate the Title I schools based on a threshold or a percent poverty or low income, and then we allocate funds to those designated Title I schools. For our Title I designations, it is based on the percent of the school membership, determined low income. So for the 18-19 school year, we have used the Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP data, for all schools, whether the school participates in this universal breakfast and lunch program or not. That way, each school, whether they participate, we're using the same type of data for all schools. ESSA requires that schools with at least 75% low income must be designated Title I schools. And then we have flexibility, but schools with at least 40% can be designated Title I and operate a school-wide program. Based on the April 2018 CEP data, 42 schools are designated as Title I schools for the 18-19 school year. With those 42 schools, we have a range of low income from 59% to 100%, with almost 22,000 students identified as low income.
Do you define low income?
Low income is using CEP data, which is directly certified, so families that receive a type of assistance, SNAP or TANF, and also categorical, which could be students who are experiencing homelessness, served in a Head Start program, foster children.
So there's not a designated
There is no
annual
free
income.
and there is no free and reduced lunch application data that we have used.
So we can't say that there's nothing about how you would define low income for a community based on this.
because of CEP is a program and it's also a data set. So we have many of our schools that participate in CEP where all students, no matter their income level of the family, receive free breakfast and free lunch. In those schools, we are prohibited from collecting free and reduced meal applications. In the schools that don't participate in CEP, we do collect free and reduced meal applications to determine the income level and that assistance that families may need. For Title I purposes, we are able to use all CEP data for all schools, or we can use a combination of applications at non-participating schools and CEP data at the participating schools. So it gets fuzzy as to which school is which and what data can we use. And so that is why, since every school has CEP data, we used that data set to determine low income, percent low income at those schools. I can talk further with you later. Will that work? Okay, later. Okay, you're welcome.
Could you refresh my memory? How many schools did we have designated last year for 2017, 2018?
We had 43 schools designated. We have one less school because Middle Fork, which was a Title I school for 17-18, as you know, is no longer served by our school system.
Okay.
So no school lost a designation that we currently have as part of our LEA, nor did we gain any schools. It stayed at that same number. So the way in which we allocate funds. So now we're talking about schools that we've identified with a high percent of low income. We use what are called poverty bands. So we group our schools based on their percent low income and then assign a per pupil amount to that poverty band. So the higher the poverty of the school or the low income of the school, the higher the per pupil amount is. Now we recognize that schools that serve families with low income have various challenges. Different challenges sometimes occur with schools that have higher percents of poverty or low income. So we've used the poverty bands as a way to additionally support our schools. The way the Title I allocation is calculated is it takes the product of the per pupil amount, or the PPA, and multiply it times the number of identified low-income students. We're also required to provide another allocation which is specifically for parent-family engagement. We calculate that the same way. We have a per pupil amount, multiply it by the number of low-income students, and then that's the amount of money, at minimum, the school has to use to support its efforts for parent-family engagement. So for the 18-19 school year, we have 42 total schools, 27 elementary, 8 middle, 7 high. No new schools designated, as I shared previously, and Middle Fork is no longer being served by our school system. That's why our numbers have changed. All of our schools develop and implement a school-wide program. A school-wide program allows the school to use its Title I funding to not only help struggling learners, but also to use the supplemental funds to raise the quality of the educational and instructional program at the school. There's another Title I program that is very specific to a specific set of students and only those students. So the resources the school receives have to be locked up in closets when certain students don't use it, and that is not a program that the district has embraced. We would want these funds to assist and support in enhancing the instructional program within all of its Title I schools. So we have some required use of funds. Before we allocate to schools, we have set-asides or reservations. We do have to set aside funds for the parent-family engagement, which we then allocate to the schools, as I previously described. We have to set aside funds for homeless children and youth services. Also for neglected, delinquent, or at-risk services when there is a program in the district, which we have one. Also, we provide equitable services for private schools who choose to participate, and then we also have to reserve indirect costs. Now, some people may say that's very restrictive, but those are just a few because we have a lot more flexibility in how we utilize our funds. So prior to calculating school allocations, we do a second set of reservations for optional activities. We do have district administration, so that's for our staff to support our Title I schools, ensure compliance as well. We also set aside funds for school improvement interventions for select schools. So those would be the previous priority schools, focus schools in years past, which we know those designations are changing, but we have reserved some funds to support the schools. We also support pre-kindergarten program, and we also have Title I district-wide instructional initiatives, so we use funds to support instructional coaches that support all Title I schools, and also parent involvement coordinators to support the parent-family engagement activities at schools. So we have here all of the categories that I've just described, showing how much funding is set aside. For the current school year, we received about $20.2 million. That is about $500,000 less than last year's allocation, so we did experience a small reduction. When we add all of that up, it comes to a little over $7 million. So we have about $20 million that we use for public schools. Remember, we have some equitable services to private schools, so those are moved off as a required set-aside. We have $7 million for our reservations, so we have almost $13 million that we allocate to the 42 schools. We also have some unused funds from the 17-18 school year, and we are allocating those to the 42 Title I schools as well. So for the current school year, we have about $15.5 million going to our 42 Title I schools. So each year, as Dr. Cato described, our schools look at their data to conduct a comprehensive needs assessment. They use NC STAR to develop their school improvement plan with input from internal and external stakeholders. Title I schools determine with parent and family input how the supplemental Title I funds will support the implementation of evidence-based strategies that are outlined in their school improvement plan and also their parent-family engagement set-aside. So to share next, here are some common strategies that the Title I funds support. This is not in any way an exhausted list, nor is it in any rank order, except the first one I will say. Many of our Title I schools do use their Title I funds for supplemental staff, which could be for teachers, facilitators, coaches, media center staff. So we do provide that funding for schools based on their needs to have supplemental staff. Schools may also choose to use their funds for instructional supplies, such as math manipulatives, could be books for classroom libraries. Also technology, software and hardware, parent-family engagement materials, professional development, tutoring, field trips, and media center resources. Again, this is not exhaustive, but these are some common use of funds at our Title I schools. All schools use the continuous improvement process, as Dr. Cato described, so you regularly determine students' needs based on data, review outcomes based on the implementation of the school improvement plan strategies, and adjust strategies when needed. Those adjustments sometimes happen middle of the year. We look at student data, we look at even teacher data and determine if additional resources are needed, may need to make some amendments to their plan to use the resources to support the needs of the school. Dr. Cato shared this before, that in addition to the school-wide allocations, some of our schools receive additional funding, so I'll share a little more about that. Focus schools, which are no longer called focus schools, but in the past they were identified because the achievement gap between subgroups exceeded the state's achievement gap. At the district level, each of these 4 Title I schools received $25,000 so that would support their efforts. And those schools last year were Brunson, Gibson, Paisley, and Wiley. And this funding is addition to the funding that I just described. So such schools received their state and local funding, they received their Title I allocation, and then they received this funding. Another group of schools that we have are schools that received the school improvement grants. This is Ashley, Carver, and Kimberly Park. These are priority schools who were identified because they were among the lowest 5% in the state. It was a competitive process. They were funded for 5 years. We are currently in the 3rd year of implementation. And again, this funding is above and beyond their local and state funding, their Title I allocation, and this funding. And we heard from some of our public comments from Ashley speaking about how the school has elected to use some of its funding and how they feel it's contributed to the success at that school so far. Our other schools, who are priority schools, again, they were among the lowest 5% in the state, received funding from the state in terms of a base allocation and then a per pupil amount. So Cook, which was a school improvement grant school or SIG school, no longer is, but does receive this funding. And then you can see the other schools listed, and you can see the amount of funding they've received over the past 3 school years. Lastly, you will see through ESSA that early learning is a big focus. And so we very appreciative of the board in using some of our Title I funds to support our pre-K program. So within our pre-K program in the district, we use multiple funding sources. We use our Title I Part A funds. We use the state's NC Pre-K. We also use our local private project impact. And we also, for our regular ed programs, we also use our exceptional children special ed funding for other pre-K programs. For the current school year, our Title I funding is supporting 29 pre-K classrooms in our community. For our Title I funded programs, students are selected using multiple educationally related objective criteria, and then children are ranked ordered based on a composite score to ensure that we serve children with the greatest academic need. So I know I have shared a lot of information of ESSA and Title I here in the district, but I welcome any questions you may have that I can attempt to answer.
Questions, board members of Kelly at this time? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, I look forward to it.
At this time, I'll recognize our CFO, Kim Slusher, for some discussion on our 2018-19 budget resolution.
So for a while, board chair, board members, and Dr. Emery, you're stuck with me again. It is my somewhat dubious honor to try to paint a picture for folks here tonight and for you as a board around what our budget timeline has been and what has brought us here today. So I need everybody in the room to take a deep breath with me and let it back out. Thank you. So budget season actually starts next month. So we start the budget process in November, and that starts with budget managers gathering data to figure out what they're going to make as their requests for the upcoming school year. During the winter time, budget managers key those requests, and then usually around January, the board is asked to provide some priority recommendations. This year, our board made those recommendations on February 13th. You might remember we were out at Kernersville Elementary School and had some really robust discussion around what the priorities of the board would be, and the board identified 4 priorities at that meeting. Those priorities were, and still are, number 1, the local supplement. Number 2, closing the gap strategies. Number 3, social and emotional learning strategies. And 4, identifying ineffective and inefficient programs to be addressed. After the board identified those priorities, budget managers were asked to review and adjust their requests based on those priorities to try to help and identify where we could find the money to meet the board's requests. So following that meeting, a committee was convened by phone to have some discussion around what could a supplement look like. What do we want to do? What could it look like? How could it be addressed? That was followed in March by the first meeting of the supplement committee, and that committee was formed of both staff members as well as board members to have some conversation around what was possible. As we get into late March, it becomes important to bring in the county commissioners to the conversation, and we do that through the county manager with a preliminary conversation with the county about what the preliminary numbers should look like. So how is the economy looking? What is the formula going to look like as we move forward? And that meeting was held towards the end of March, followed almost immediately by another meeting of the supplement committee to try to come up with options that would adhere to and fall within the expectations provided by the county manager. That was followed by the April 10th presentation of the preliminary budget to the Finance Committee, but I want to back up for just a second. When the Supplement Committee was meeting, they had a few intentions. So their intentions were to look at what would the cost of an increase be, where are we going to find the money to do that, what is the North Carolina ranking of the supplement? That was definitely a concern of the committee. And one of the main concerns was and continues to be looking at how can we simplify the way that we do the supplement, because right now in terms of, lots of people tonight talked about our ability to recruit and retain teachers, and one of the main concerns of the committee is that being able to explain to a prospective teacher what is my supplement going to be becomes a very complicated issue based on our current formula. So they really wanted to look at how can we simplify that to a way that would be easily explained to either prospective or current employees around how much are they actually getting. So after the preliminary presentation to the Finance Committee, the preliminary budget was presented to the board on April 24th. And out of that conversation came additional questions. So the board opted at that meeting to not take action at that time. However, with some things that came up in early May, you may recall there was a primary election on May 8th. And so we opted not to meet on May 8th, which would have been the regularly scheduled board meeting. We actually held a special called meeting on May 1st in order to ensure that the board had the opportunity to approve the preliminary budget or not prior to going to the county commissioners on May 10th. It was the Tuesday that afforded that opportunity. So the board met at a special called meeting on May 1st and adopted the preliminary budget at that time. At the May 1st meeting, there were 8 members of the board present, just as an FYI, just kind of as a reminder, and the vote was 5-3. So there was still some concern about some things in the budget, but it passed, and on May 10th, we made that preliminary budget presentation to the county commissioners. It's important to note that when we make our initial budget presentation to the commissioners, that we don't have the state budget information. And so even though we have preliminary information from the county manager, we don't have the information from the state. And that becomes an issue when we don't know what the state budget is going to ultimately look like around salary increases and other concerns for our local, that have local budget implications. That May 10th meeting was on a Thursday. On the following Tuesday, there was another meeting of the supplement committee to have some additional conversation around a plan that we're going to share in just a couple of minutes. And then as a consequence of the presentation to the county commissioners, a formula committee started having conversation. So our formula goes back to 2010, 11, yes. Thank you, and has not been readdressed since that time. And quite honestly, it's kind of like talking about EVOS sometimes. So my educator friends out there know that when we talk about EVOS, it is a very difficult and complex algorithm. Talking about the county formula can also be somewhat of a complex algorithm as well. And so trying to understand what was actually part of the county funding formula made for some lively conversation and for some digging and exploration to try to have greater understanding. Part of the need for that understanding was to explore the possibility of the board and the superintendent going back to the county commissioners to ask for an increase in percentage of formula allocation in order to have flexibility in how those funds are used, as opposed to them having to be used for a specific purpose to address the concern that has been made tonight about addressing both teacher and classified supplement opportunities or additional monies. So that brings us to July 6th, which is actually slightly earlier than in some past years. We received our initial allotment from the state, but that resulted in some problems. So we got the initial allotment from the state, but the allotment was not what we expected. There are some implications of the state budget that we're going to talk about that meant that there was a shortfall in the district's budget as presented to the county commissioners, and so that meant that there needed to be additional adjustments made in order for staff to bring you a balanced budget now. So the formula committee continued to meet. They had another meeting in August, and then 2 weeks ago the budget resolution was presented to the finance committee, and then here we are tonight. So what were those conditions that created the shortfall? First of all, there was a loss in flexibility from the state in terms of textbook allocation and AIG allotment. So in the past, we've had some pretty good flexibility with how we could use textbook monies from the state level and have some implication at the local level, and also within the AIG funding of teaching positions that are now restricted, and meant that our local budget was negatively impacted by having to pay for certain positions out of local funds that had been historically paid for out of state. We did have a decrease in enrollment. It's already been mentioned by Dr. Hales that Middle Fork Elementary School is not currently part of the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Schools student enrollment, and so that reduction in enrollment indicated a reduction in our state allocation as well. There was an increase at the state level in terms of retirement and health insurance, and that has to be matched locally for locally funded employees. And there was a 2% salary increase that was mandated, that requires a mandated match for locally paid employees as well. And we have over 350 locally paid instructional personnel. So that becomes a fairly hefty number of folks, and that resulted in a budget shortfall of over $2 million. However, in finding that $2 million shortfall in order to bring you a balanced budget tonight, we did not have any impact on personnel. No one lost their job. So those 350 locally paid instructional employees are still employed by the district today. There was no impact on class size, so we didn't try to look at, can we increase class size in order to squeeze out some money? And at every opportunity, you as a board have asked, where are we going to find the money for the supplement? Where are we going to find the money in order to have a sustainable piece of the pot to pay for that? And in order to balance the budget, we had department reorganization. We did have some salary savings, always due to retirement, that we were able to make some additional adjustments. And we have, due to the Imagine initiative, we have held off on hiring a couple of positions, so we were able to remove those salaries from the budget for the months when folks are not employed. We looked at the restricted instructional supplies and did some adjusting there. And then there was a lift bus that would have been a fairly hefty investment that we moved to the state budget. That's kind of the timeline. Now, I'm not the numbers person, so I'm going to turn things over to Kim and let her talk numbers.
I think Alex does such a wonderful job that I should move her to finance, but she says no. So we keep talking about this funding formula from the county, and the funding formula committee and how does this work. And I will honestly say it's been an adventure. It's done some digging. In fact, even learned more today, as some of you are well aware. So I'm going to kind of try to explain the funding formula. If you look at the bottom, it seems pretty straightforward. It is budget is equal to your base start plus your enrollment numbers plus the resource factor plus your transfer. Now, pretty simple formula. But let's talk about how they get your base starting point for the schools. We take our FY 2008, that's the June 30th numbers. These are what we received from the county appropriations last year. And then you back out the capital maintenance CPO, which is the capital project ordinance of $1.7 million. So our base is actually $122,871,000. Now to factor what additional funds we'll receive, we take 40% of the budget, which is $122 million, which is equal to $49,148,000. The reason that's important is that's where our enrollment factor comes in. And that is given by DPI. Those are not our numbers. That is what DPI is projecting our enrollment to be. Of course, it is a large decrease. Part of that is Middle Fork. We lost a large number of students. So that resulted in a loss of $704,000 for my local appropriation. Then we add in the resource factor of 1.6%. That is used on the base starting point for the schools. The resource factor is actually the difference in the FY18 to the FY19 personal property and sales tax. And I actually have those numbers if you all want them. I reached out to them and got them today. But it was about a little over a $5 million increase. So they take the $5 million increase, divide that by the prior year's budget numbers, and that's the 1.60. So that netted about 1.9 million. So then they add back in the capital maintenance of 1.7, and that gives us our budget from the county of $125,873,594. Now, in this, I know it looks like we received an additional 1.26 million, but in that number, that went to pay for the 2% increase in the salaries, the benefits, the retirement. So it's not really any additional funds to us. It was used for that. And in this number, 59.12% of this budget goes to instruction alone. So I do want to make sure you're aware of that. So this is how we come up with our funding formula from the county. Does anybody have any questions before I do this slide? Okay. The one-time teacher bonus, I know there's been some conversation out there that they would not net $300. The budget resolution we're bringing tonight, the staff would actually, they would net $300. To do that, it actually cost us $660.21 per employee for them to net $300. The impact of that is about $2.5 million, of which $2.2 million we are taking out of the fund balance, which you will see on the budget resolution. The other $305,000 is coming from savings that we had within the budget once we did our budget cuts and reorganizations. So is there any questions on?
I do have a question.
Okay.
So if instead of saying we're giving you a net $300 bonus, we said we were going to give you a $660 increase in supplement over the year.
Okay.
What is the tax implications for individual employees? Do they end up ahead? Because it seems like a high tax rate. And is there a higher tax rate for bonuses?
It is a higher tax rate, and that's the reason. It is because we have to do it as a bonus, because there's no way we could possibly do it. We don't know how everybody files their taxes, so it's a flat tax rate. So that's how we get them to net 300.
So here's my confusion, and maybe you can help me.
Okay.
So if instead of doing it as a bonus,
right,
we increased every teacher's salary by $660 this year.
Okay.
And the taxes fall out the way taxes fall out for
Correct.
people. They're very different. Does that harm our district, or is that?
My next slide.
Okay.
I have shown what it would be if we did a supplement increase of $660 for the employees, which would net about $66 a month based on the 10-month option. The increase, they would of course be responsible for their FICA, and they would be responsible for their taxes, all taxes, all their retirement. But if we do that, our rate would go actually up to $834.97 because we would have to pay retirement and we would have to match the FICA rate on that. So that actually increases our cost as a district to $3.4 million. So that's almost an additional $1 million that you would have to take out of fund balance in order to do the $660 in their supplement or in their salary. Does that help?
I think.
Okay, and I did do some calculations today. If you, at $2.5 million, which is about the number we're looking at to do the one-time bonus, to add that into their salary, it would be about $49.50 a month or $495 a year, just to give you a rough idea to use the same amount of money.
So for the same amount of money to our district,
Correct.
it would be $495 to the teachers.
Correct.
Plus
And they would
pay taxes.
they would pay
They would pay
taxes
taxes.
and retirement on that.
Right.
And if that is included in their salary, of course, that would be an ongoing cost that we would have to come up with a substantial form of revenue to or take it out of fund balance. You're welcome.
And Kim, that's where
Yes.
the issue of sustainability comes in. I think you just mentioned that.
Correct.
Maybe that option. Okay.
Right. Sustainability, at $2.5 million, with the bonus if it goes through, our fund balance will be down to about $9 million. After that, 2.5, you're about 4 years, you've drained your fund balance. So we would have to come up with a sustainable form. Within the budget itself, there is nowhere else to cut the budget right now to come up with this amount of money. The only place we have remaining to cut anything is personnel.
And Kim, if we were looking to develop a 5-year plan, then we'd be basically looking for just right around $13 million. And since we don't have a way of generating revenue, then we would have to go to the county commissioners to request that $13 million.
That is correct.
And
yes.
that would be to maintain it for a minimum of 5 years.
Correct.
Oh, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we took our budget to the county commissioners this time, how much was it we requested, $125,000? How much was it we requested on May 10th? The total budget, how much did we request on May 10th?
$1.5 million.
Okay, and how much did we get?
We received about $1.2 million.
So in other words, we requested 1.5 and they were not able to meet our
Correct.
current needs. So we walked away with less money than we needed.
Right.
Okay.
If I could add, we didn't put it in this budget resolution, but I do want to, particularly in light of all the concerns we've heard recently, bring up the issue that the county does have a sales tax on the ballot in November, and I'm not trying to promote or support, this is not a public endorsement, but it is a source of revenue, and if we're going to talk about asking, that is something we could go ask for right away. They're, we all know that part of that is for the courthouse. Do we go now and ask for a percentage of it? The discussion that we've had with the county manager has been the same 40% that we currently have in the formula. They think that would apply, but do we go ask for more percentage of that? Do we get that sealed right away, because it would help us with this issue of sustainable revenue? At 40%, which is our current percentage of formula, we're told that that would be about 1.2 to 1.4 million, but we could ask for a larger percentage of those discretionary revenues if the sales tax were to pass. And I just think that is another way we could move to the point that we've been given here of people want to see us act. I think while that wouldn't solve the entire sustainability issue going forward, it would be a source of revenue for us that we don't currently have.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that based on our current formula, one of the ways that we would have to generate this is by potentially tapping into a sales tax that's going to impact all the citizens of Forsyth County with a tax increase not imposed by us, but possibly by the county commissioners.
Yes, sir. So what I'm saying is if that tax passes.
And that's what it is, a tax.
Right, it's a tax. If that tax passes, that I believe our district should have access to the same percentage, if not more, that we typically get. And part of the discussion, this board knows, and we've been trying to share tonight, is that we've been trying to look at that percentage of 40% because that's been the guidance we've been given from the county, which is maybe it is a smarter thing for us to do in terms of our revenue instead of going and asking for one specific thing, teacher supplements or whatever that might be, and to look at the formula in total. Do we need a larger percent? Is 40% not working for us anymore? And that's what this study has been about. How much would it generate? And part of that is flexibility, because if you ask for only one thing, then some of the other comments you've heard tonight about other employee groups, you're locked into that one thing. Whereas if you ask for the formula and how our revenue is generated to be different, then you still as a board control the decisions around how you designate that spending each year. And so I'm not trying to get into, is this a good tax or a bad tax? Should there be this tax? I'm just suggesting that if it passes in November, it will create additional revenue for our county, and should we go ahead and ask for a percentage of that to help us with sustainability of whatever we might want to do here long term?
Ms. Parker, do you have a comment?
I did. Having been the old person who remembers whenever we had to go and beg for money every year from the county commissioners before the formula was instituted, where we had to sell our firstborn to get, any money for the schools. I appreciate the formula, and it's been a wonderful thing to have happen, but it has been a while since we have done that. And I think it is time for us to revisit that. I think it's time for us to sit down with the commissioners and really figure out a lot of these things. I think it's time for us to have a formula committee off of this board, as well as with the superintendent, the county manager, and some commissioners, to look at that and to explore exactly what Dr. Emery was just talking about, if the sales tax is there, so that we can look at some areas and that they can understand a lot of the concerns that we've heard tonight for classified, for teachers. I think that's good, and I think it's good to have some community input on that as well.
Ms. Montzinger.
I wanted to add on to that the 40% was not a written in stone amount. As far as I understand from conversations with commissioners, there's not even a written agreement about it, that it was more a beginning. It was the first step out of the gate. Okay, let's try a formula, and it's not been revisited. And I think it's very clear that what public education needs is not adequately getting met by both the state and locally. I also think, I understand one of the concerns that some commissioners may indeed have is that the more of the cost of public education that they take on, the more the state walks away. And that's a really hard line to draw. However, we, as Forsyth County, as Winston-Salem Forsyth County, want to be the most competitive place in the state to live. We want this to be a place where people set down roots and industry wants to come and be successful. We want to be innovators, and that requires a real investment in public education. and investment in our teachers. I mean, it's reflected all the way through.
I think you bring up a good point, Ms. Motsinger, and I think that's in part of what, back in the meeting that we took on the road at Kernersville Elementary when the board kind of came up with priorities, there was no one there asking for that. The board recognized, like Ms. Parker said, that since 2010-11, we needed to revisit the supplement, and it was not meeting our needs. But I think also some of the concerns that we had was, and they still are there, we need, what's the long-range plan of not only a one-time ask or that sort of thing, but how do you build it into the formula, and then how do you do what we were talking about tonight and get into back where Winston-Salem Forsyth County used to be, and that was in the top 5 of the state. So there has to be a long-range plan for that. We don't want, or it's never been my goal to pit a Board of Education against a county commissioner board. Our county commissioners and this board worked very well together in 2016 to put a bond package together where in the past the school district had gone and just said, we were going to ask for everything in the kitchen sink, knowing good and well commissioners could not, based on their funding formula, fund that. And so we didn't want to do that as a board, and we sat down and met with our commissioners at that time. And my thought around this, though it's slow, and I know that has been aggravating for many, was that we would do the same thing when we're talking about the long-range plans for the supplements. If we go to our commissioners, who I know they believe in public education, but we have that, or at least a framework of what that plan looks like, just like we had for the bond, then we can really get somewhere about not only what do we do for classified employees, what do we do for teachers, what do we do to get in the top 5 of the state, and then what do we do about per pupil spending as well. So there's a lot of things there that we need to address, but I think we all know in reality there's only so much money, and how do we do it in a staged way through the years to get us there. So I agree with Ms. Motsinger, it's time to revisit that. I just think I guess my frustration after a video surfaced and there was no ask is that it let, and I said this to the Journal reporter, I don't think it made it into the paper, but he asked me when I saw the video, what was the first thought that entered my mind, and I said, wow, we need to do a better job of communicating to our stakeholders because you guys didn't know we were doing all this. And you know, shame on us for not doing that. I'm not sure what that is in such a big such a big district, but you know, maybe a politically motivated video got out because of something that happens in November, but still it's on us. Shame, you know, how do we communicate that? Because the work's happening. This is not made up dates that Alex shared. With a long-range goal, but how do we do a better job of doing that? So we need to do, I need to figure out myself and ideas out there, and I think we all have reflected as a board on how we can do that. But so I agree with those comments, Ms. Motsinger and Ms. Parker as well.
And just one other comment about funding is that we have to really be, the state cut funding during recession. The economy recovered, but our funding never followed that recovery. And that is a travesty. If you do cuts because of recession, you have to restore the funding when the recession has come to an end.
And we need to continue to advocate that message to our state representatives. You're right, Ms. Motsinger. Ms. Calvert-Hayes.
I feel like that it's time that we do revisit as soon as possible. And I also look at our teachers out here tonight. And you know what? You're boosting our economy. The first thing that happens when someone moves to this area is ask about the schools. Tell us about the schools. Tell us about the teachers that you have in your school. So not only do I feel like you deserve more, but I feel like that our commissioners and our stakeholders should realize exactly what you're doing and what you're doing for our economy in Forsyth County. So I'm hoping that the sooner we can do this and revisit, we do it. And that's not the board's thoughts, that's just my little mind running. But I think the sooner we can revisit it, we do revisit it. And I thank you all for coming tonight and for what you said. And I think all along, everybody on this board wants nothing but the best for you. Thanks.
Ms. Clark, did you have some comments?
Yes, I would just like to say, I'll take the blame for the slow process that we've been in this year. I, like you all, and to the teachers who are watching, wish that this could have been remedied many months ago. You know, when we first began this process, I said, hearkened back to the days of where Forsyth County was one of the top counties paying supplements, and that is why many people came here. They wanted to come here because of the supplement. I said, I believe we can go there again. And it will take several $1 million of sustainable income for us to do that. But I just want you all to know that we are committed to doing that. I don't think anybody up here does not want for teachers to have more pay. We do. We know the hard job that we've heard tonight that teachers do every day. And I think that it is incumbent upon us as school board and then with the county commissioners as well to partner together. We should be in the business of solving problems, and we have been in the process of doing that. It is lengthy and painfully slow sometimes. I will tell you and admit, and perhaps I'm part of the problem in that process. But I promise to you that we will work on this, and we will, as we set out in the beginning of the meetings, that we will bring Forsyth County back into the top, because it is important that we retain teachers, bring them here, and then retain them. And this is one of the very important ways that we're going to do that. So let's go to solving problems together. That should be the goal.
Mr. Johnson, we turn.
I guess that there's certain things that I don't quite understand. You know, after 21 years, I'm getting off this thing in 2 months. But my people are asking me, why are you asking for $300 when they got money? You know, they told you had some money. You know, my daughter said, look, $300 was what you gave me 35 years ago for Christmas present. You know, that's, you ask some money for teachers, you ought to be able to, I would have liked to spend $1,000, and that would have given you $100 a month for 10 months, you know. But I just don't understand. You can write up anything you want to write up, but when the county commissioners say they got money, then this is the first time that we ever had any problems like this. When they say they had a certain amount of money, the superintendent would ask for what was needed, and that was it. Now, I don't know, is $300 is all that we need? I'll say no. No, no, no. I would never buy that. We've already 5 or 6 years behind. When I came on this board, when I came to this school system, we were number 3 in the state. Number 3 in this state. Now, I'm concerned about getting back up to number 1. It doesn't look like my taxes are being reduced. You know, when I get my tax bill every year, I'm paying over almost $3,000 in taxes, city and county taxes. And this money is supposed to be going to the school system to help these teachers with the supplement. Now, I don't know, we may need to get the county commissioners down and find out exactly what we can do, because I don't believe this is all that we can do at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Dr. Emery?
I don't want to drag this on, but since we have a group of caring people here tonight, there is another way that we all can work together on one of these issues that would be really helpful. And it's not a huge piece, but it is. And our teachers will understand. This year, for the first time in many, many years, we have been not allowed to move dollars from our state textbook fund. And for those of you who are aware, we have moved at least $1 million into instructional supply so that teachers could use different kinds of materials not things that just had to come off a state-adopted textbook list. We do not have that flexibility anymore, and one of the places you saw here where we had a gap to make up was that. And it doesn't cost the state any more money, but it hurts us locally in terms of what we can do with it, and our ability to be able to transfer that would be helpful. The second layer to that our instructional services people helped me realize this week is that because those monies have been frozen for so long, there are not new adoptions being approved by the state to go on the state adopted textbook list. So if you've got $2 million in state textbook money and you can only use that either for digital, which is, we do have flexibility with digital resources, but in terms of text, we have to buy off that list. If we haven't added recent materials to that list, then there's not a whole lot of choices there. And a simple change, which I know superintendents lobbied for, I believe our state superintendent even included that in a technical corrections bill after the General Assembly passed this budget, could help us tremendously here. It would literally free up local dollars that we could use. And so it's just it may seem like a small point, but it's a place we could all communicate on. Just getting that flexibility back helps us locally, and is something that doesn't cost anybody at the state or local any more money. It just gives us local dollars that we now have to leave in that state fund.
I have a question, and I just have no idea. What is our average teacher supplement, and what is the average teacher supplement in, say, Wake County, which I guess is, you know, how big a difference are we talking about per teacher?
Our average is 3,727, and I will see if I can find, Wake County is 8,649.
We have that chart, same one.
Yes,
Okay.
so there is that chart.
So it's, okay. So it's about 5,000.
About 5.
Average, yes.
5,000.
But I would like to point out on this is a self-reporting document that the systems actually self-report on that. So we have reached out to DPI to ask them what are the guidelines for reporting, what is included, what is not included, because just to make sure that we are comparing apples to apples on this.
And when you have a list, how close are districts on that list? Are they, so the spread?
To give you an example, the district that's right above us, it's $9 difference a month. So some are large variations, some are very close, some are $1 or $2. I mean, and some localities do play. I mean, they will increase it by $1 to say we're ahead of such and such, but it may be $12 a year. I mean.
I would also say that, you know, that the increase to get us into the top, say, 6th position is going to take $6 million of new money that we do not have right now. We have identified in this process a chunk of $300,000, which clearly is not going to get it. And, you know, whether we're the Board of Education, and we philosophically think that we like the idea of a one-time bonus, but we also like the idea of fixing this formula to where we can net over a period of time that $6 million. And whether you're, you know, somebody on the other side who thinks we should automatically build it into the supplement, you know, I think that we should do both. We should give the bonus where you net more as if and over what you would net if we build it into the supplement this year. We still, either way, have to find $6 million in sustainable revenue that we don't have. So I think sometimes it's a philosophy difference, whether how we get there. We all want to get there, but we differ in how we get there, and I think we will. But
I have a question, Kim. I know when I received a supplement years ago teaching, it was given in a lump sum twice a year. Is there any regulation on supplements and things as to when and how they start? I mean, can you start them in February?
The supplement is locally funded, so we can do however we need to.
So we have all
Yes.
kinds of flexibility. So we could work on that and do that whenever an agreement between this board and the commissioners, when we came up with a sustainable, and I agree that we have to have a sustainable plan. I don't think anybody wants to have a salary a certain amount one year and the next year you do not. I mean, you don't buy a house with a fluctuating income. So as soon as we come up with this sustainable, and I also do believe that we've got to get all of our years of experience in sync, because it's very out of kilter at this point. So we could do that at any point.
Correct. Our budget, and including the budget resolution I'm bringing tonight for approval, it is a living document. It can be amended at any time. So we can amend that at any time. And if you, on the next slide, this is based on the supplement committees that we've had. And we did a 6-year plan to try to phase it in over time. And as you can see, year 1 would be over $1 million cost to do it. Year 2 is $839, almost $840,000. So as you can see, the cumulative annual keeps climbing until year 6, when it's going to be an additional $5.2 million a year, an additional funding that we would need to have for this 6-year plan.
And that really, Kim, also depends on what the state gives. There's a lot of variables in that. So
That
really,
is correct.
we need to know that
it could go up. If retirement goes up, these numbers will go up.
And so I think one of the things had talked about fund balance, and I
Correct.
think, so one of the thoughts that, why do we keep things in fund balance? Well, for one-time purchases, but also once we have a funding stream here, however the county would work with us on doing that in those years where the funding formula just, to no one's fault, goes kind of flat or we lose money, then in those years, that's why you need that fund balance to be able to make up the difference, so that you're not seeing any decreases to staff or anything that's going on. And that, through time, that can happen. Or in those years where the state gives an increase, we can't find money and we haven't had a savings. So I think it's good to look at that, and I'm sure this may also need to change a little bit too, just because of what counties around us have done since we pulled these numbers.
Because when we did this, it was based on the numbers we had that day. So if counties around us change, of course, we'll have to change with them to keep.
And that's my question. So at this, what you're proposing is year 6 is about $100 a month increase over 6 years.
Correct.
And where would that put us?
Well, when we did this, that would put us into the top 10, I believe, or the top 6 of the state, depending on the salary schedules.
But that would assume they didn't change.
That's correct. Now, that assumes nobody else changes.
But they're all going to change.
Right. It's a moving, it really is a moving target.
Well, I think, and that's a great point, Ms.
Right.
Motsinger. I think that's what we were saying at the time when this was a snapshot, but that has changed. So again, the number is going to be much larger than
It's
$6
a real
million.
moving target. So if we were at 355 for a zero-step bachelor's now, we would be in the top 10. Is that correct? If we were there tomorrow, imagine.
We would be in the top 10. Yes.
Then we would be in the top 10, because I'm assuming other districts are doing what we're doing.
I have another question.
And my guess is even if we got where we wanted to be in year 6, we're still not going to be in the top 10 a year from now.
Correct. It is going to take time to get us there. It's not.
But my concern is it's going to take us time to get to something that's always moving. So we're not I guess what I'm looking at is I'm not seeing a plan that gets us into substantially changing this in our district in a real way. And I'm not questioning anybody's.
And that's why we're still working on the plan.
Right.
And that's why it's really important. Like, I mean, if we were at year 6 tomorrow, we're still not at our goal.
You're right. This was a snapshot of the last time that the supplement committee met. So it's not reflective of a lot of other things.
And you have to remember that how other counties do it is they may not have a funding formula, and they go every year and they ask for large sums of money, and then we have not done that because the original design and intent of the funding formula was to give us money that we knew we would have to be able to then use how we wanted to use it without, and I think probably the county commissioners didn't want to run our school district.
Well, and I think part of the funding formula was also to say in times of recession, we don't want to promise you those things, and in times of plenty, you will experience that as well. And I guess I'm just looking at this and it kind of just breaks my heart because we're talking about getting somewhere that even if we were there today, we're still not reaching our target.
That's why we need to look at our funding formula.
And we need a formula.
Right.
And again, the 40% was based on a one-time deal and not a revisit.
You're correct. I think, Ms. Parker, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I've got, okay, so I have another question. I'm sorry. The state has been known from a salary standpoint to do some wonky things just on certain steps.
Correct.
So that bothers me because, okay, so we get this nice step, we get a plan.
Correct.
And the state does something really wonky with what they're doing. Do you know of any supplement plans, or could we, and maybe I'm way off in left field with this, but could we develop a plan that has a provision in the plan for addressing those things that the state might do that at this point we have no clue that they'd come up with that idea, but that we could still be not do a disservice to those people, to the other people on the supplement schedule. I just want to, we're way out of kilter right now, and I don't want to see us get there ever again. And I guess I'm just asking, is there a way to do that when the state does something that we can't control?
We can definitely look at that on a year-to-year basis if that happens again.
Okay.
We could go back and review our supplement plan and look and try to do something.
I think also in the process of this, just remember, we also started looking at a formula committee because of trying to peel the formula back. Because I think it goes back to comments that Ms. Clark's made, Ms. Monsinger, and Ms. Parker have made about this is a moving target and what different things are going on. And so, board members, if you remember today in Building and Grounds Committee, we talked around the capital, the 2/3. So we have a 10-year plan that the school district put together, and it's fun. So when we put the plan together, there were 40. Based on 10-year ago dollars, if you can imagine, $40 million worth of needs that were not in the plan. We took it to the county. In order to meet that over 10 years, based on those 10-year numbers, we would have needed from the county $8 million each year to make that happen. We receive $8.5 million every other year from the county to make that happen. So they're not fully funding that plan currently. But that plan is separate from our funding formula. And so when we're trying to address teacher supplements and how do we accelerate that quicker, part of the reason that we started to put a committee together to talk about the funding formulas, does this really need to be in the formula, or does this need to be a 10-year plan or a whatever plan that would get us there quicker and we could have different flexibility. So I think, again, there's a lot of conversation there. I also think that I point out that one piece is I appreciate us having a plan with our commissioners to maintain our buildings. But again, that's a plan that we ask for $8 million every year, and we've been getting $8.5 million every other year. So they're not funding us to what we need. And so before we put something into a supplement, I just want to make sure that we have that conversation and we have that guarantee that whatever we put out there, especially considering now we're not talking about buildings and boilers and chillers, but we're talking about people's salary, that we really have the commitment that they're going to do it every year.
Yeah, I hope that we're not getting state pay confused with supplement. Supplement is paid by the county and the city of this Winston-Salem and Forsyth County.
Not the city, Mr. Johnson.
But listen, what I'm trying to get across. What problem do we have about asking for their money? They have never had any problems budgeting their own money. They can tell you what we can get or what we can't get. We don't need to make that decision. The only thing we need to do is ask for what we think we need, and they will make a decision, say, no, you can have this, or no, you can, or yes, you can have this. I have never known anybody that budgeted anything for this county. They'll let you know. The only thing you need to do is just ask for what you need. And I don't understand what's the problem. It seems like we're making a problem. We're digging a hole for ourselves, and it shouldn't be a hole there. We just need to go and ask for more money and try to give these teachers, do you know, $25 a month is not enough for gas? And that's what $300 you're talking about? That's not enough for gas money. That's what you give your child around Christmas for a Christmas present, not teachers. Ask for some money and see, can you get it? If you afraid to ask, I ask them for some money.
And I'm actually glad Mr. Johnson said that, because my sentiments are the same in such. I have gone through these numbers, I have flipped them, I have done my own math, and there's no way we just do not have the revenue. But I always come back to just ask. We don't have the money, but I always hear that open invitation from our county commissioner that says to just ask. So whether we're going to come and ask them for help us with teacher supplement, or we're going to go to them and ask them to increase the percentage in the formula. But I think we need to get together and go ahead and decide what we're going to ask them, but it's time for us to ask for something. The invitation was there, and we just need to step into our invitation.
I agree. I think that's what we've been working on.
Amen.
Finding out what to ask for.
Amen. So we need to go ahead.
Amen down here.
I think, like Mrs. Clark said, that we as a board, we've learned some lessons with this, about this whole thing. Because when it came to the supplement pay, Lori or Mrs. Clark and I were on that team, and we went through that timeline, which is accurate. And what we kept running into is what you guys are seeing right now. And it seemed at that time it was insurmountable. But what we are proposing at this point is a one-time bonus, and that's a good faith effort. And then what we're planning on doing, expanding that team with some teacher representatives and hopefully commissioners, and going to them and presenting, coming together, working on a plan, and then presenting a plan. Because I think we can stay in this circle for a while, and it'd be good for us to
Exactly.
move on.
We're going in a circle,
Yes.
Robert. We're talking about the same stuff over and over again. Either we're going to go ahead and ask, or we're just going to sit there and figure out our own way of finding the revenue. We're just going in a circle right now.
Also, I want to know what Dana brought up too. I mean, you know, we're not getting the amount of money that we asked for the capital project, which is going through 218 to 220. So I want to know about that also. Let's bring that home.
So we have additional questions on this, or Kim, do you want to move us forward? Because I know there's a lot of some other things we need to cover in the budget, but I don't want to stop questions. Ms. Motsinger?
I want to echo what Deanna said, which is that the commissioners, the ones I've spoken to, say, we don't need you to figure out where that money's coming from. We need to know, what do you want, what do you need, and ask for it. I also think that one of the most clear things I've heard this evening in addition is that we have classified employees. We have a county and a city that's been focused on making sure that they get a living wage. The state raised all employees except school system employees to $15 an hour. And I think that an ask has to include if there's a living wage for employees of the city of Winston-Salem, for the county of Forsyth County, for state employees in the state of North Carolina, there is an acknowledgement that people need a living wage and that we need to ask for it as well.
Ms. Parker, did you have a comment, or did you want Kim to finish? I'm through with my question. Okay.
Okay.
Kim, if you'll go ahead.
All right, my last slide is just our proposed budget. I know I mentioned that 59.12% of our local dollars goes to instruction, and this slide breaks it out. Of course, 60 million of it is going towards salaries and benefits, and as Alex alluded to before, that is over 300 instructional positions. That's above and beyond the state allotment that we are providing. And also, not to go into too much detail, but the budget resolution that was brought to you for approval, the only difference between it and the May budget resolution is, of course, the one-time bonus and also the 2% increase in salary and benefits. So that is our only change in the budget resolution.
So between the budget resolution in May and what we see tonight, 2% increase in.
Correct.
And the one-time bonus added.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsinger?
Do we have so there are these committees, do we have a commitment from these committees that they will be reporting back by?
We said in our last finance committee meeting, I think we were there, we were all there, that the goal was by January that we would have it all mapped out.
And is it possible?
Maybe we could do it before. I'm sure if we, tried to do it. But that was what we when we talked about the bonuses, and I believe it passed unanimously. The bonuses did at that finance committee meeting. That's where we also discussed the timeline.
Well, I think if we can move it up, let's certainly try to move it up as quickly as we can. We sure don't want anybody to forget about it.
Staff has made recommendations for who should sit on that committee to the board.
Yes.
And so we wanted to wait and see what happened with tonight's meeting before reaching out to those teacher representatives, just so we could make sure that we could put it in the appropriate context of tonight's conversation. And so after tonight, we'll be able to reach out to those teacher representatives and also ask the county manager to recommend a county commissioner or two to be able to participate on that committee as well.
So it's one committee, it's not two committees. There's not a formula committee and a subcommittee.
Prior to tonight, there have been kind of two different bodies operating. I think that based on the conversation tonight, I'm only hearing the need for a single committee to figure out how to get this all to work. But if the board makes a different recommendation, we can certainly maintain two separate committees.
No,
but I think
don't think we want
I think that's.
No more committees. I do think it's important each year to have some board members go to look at the formula, at the funding that we get each year. I think the more ears and eyes that can look at that, the better. I think that needs to be a process put in place.
And not to sound like a broken record, but we can go before we have a plan and ask for a percentage of dollars, because those dollars would actually help us with a plan.
Absolutely. So the county commissioners meet when? Let's say Dr. Emery should be on the agenda with an ask.
I think that gives our folks who've been here tonight
and our county commissioners can step up to what they've been saying they want to do, because that's what they've been saying, right? As the person who asked for 1.5 and got 1.2, right, I would like to go ask for the sales tax proceeds and see if we get that moving, because those revenues could come back to this work group and help us with what we take forward. Well, what we've been asking for, we haven't been getting. It's just like the capital plan. We've been asking for $8 million every year, we're getting 8.5 every other year. So they need to fulfill the ask.
And Madam Chairman, Madam Chairman, if I could interject, one of the things that I've admired about this board since 2014 is its ability to be physically responsible and measured in a responsible manner in the way that we react to stresses on our school system, on our teachers, on our classified staff. I've often said to Rhonda Mays, if there was anything that I could change, I would love to be able to change the fact that teachers continue to be manipulated as pawns in a political chess game between two parties in North Carolina who share an equal responsibility for the ills that we all suffer. Many things have come to light because of this particular video. What's disappointing is that these issues did not come to us in a more civil, more cooperative format. In 2014, we all worked together with teachers and teachers' assistants to make sure that we kept all of our teachers' assistants' positions. When our veteran teachers were not being paid adequately in the steps, we worked together as a school system, school board, with the FCAE, with teacher representatives to make sure that those veteran teachers got some extra money. In 2017, we worked to make sure that there was a 7% local increase. So the fact of the matter is that we all have worked well together in the past, and it's just unfortunate that we were not able to come together this time in the same manner that we were able to in the past. And I can't think of one person that I see sitting in this room right now who had approached me and said, hey, what's going on with the teacher supplement, that I would not have been able to have sat down and had a conversation with. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Since 2014, we've tried to make sure that we've had a responsible relationship with your county commissioners. One of the reasons that we do that is because in states such as ours, where states fund the largest portion of the education, localities pay the other half or the other portion. One of the nice things about that is if you look at states that have formulas similar to our own, they typically have lower property taxes. States don't allow their localities to levy separate educational taxes, which impose additional taxes. And also what you have a tendency to see is in states such as ours, the difference between equity for high-income students and low-income students, the gap is actually narrower in systems such as ours. When Wake County brought their supplement up to the point that they did it with a property tax increase. The county commissioners this time worked to avoid a property tax increase. I think all of us appreciate that. I think that this particular board, okay, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think the low-income families get impacted at the same rate when you put taxes on people. So, needless to say, it looks like this particular board is going to move forward responsibly as we always have, and I just hope that teachers will continue to reach out to us and allow us to have the opportunity to work the way we have in previous years without finding ourselves in situations of contention like this.
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. Kim, I think, and Alex, we appreciate your time with us right now. We're gonna roll on to the next item. If we have other questions, we can ask you some additional questions before a vote. Okay, at this time I'll recognize Sam Dempsey. Sam, thank you for all your hard work you do for us in EC. I believe Sam will talk about two items with us. The first, a proclamation for Disability History and Awareness Month, and public consulting group contract extension. Thank you, Sam.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Jones, Superintendent, members of the board, and community.
The first item is the proclamation declaring the month of October as National Disability Month and recognizing that here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. We have 7,700 children with disabilities in our county. We have a wide range. We have children that are as low as being in a persistent vegetative state. We have children that are mild LD and get, a couple of years ago, we had a kid get a full ride to Stanford. They're so bright. So it's a wide, wide range. We employ about 1,000 employees just to work in special ed. We never have a dull day. I counted up the other day, and I think this is, the most recent one is the 45th lawsuit I've been involved in professionally. But we also have a lot of good things. We have the highest graduation rate in the state of North Carolina for our occupational course of study children. And our assistive technology team is actually asked to go train the state people on how to do assistive technology. So we are way out in front on several things. But we appreciate the board's consideration in adopting this proclamation declaring that October is Disability Awareness Month. The second thing I'll bring to your attention is the contract with the Professional Consulting, Public Consulting Group. That is for the software that you've heard us talk about over the years that we use for IEPs, for MTSS, for 504, for LEP. Basically, we've spent the last 17, 18 years building software. We were the first large district in the country to achieve electronics for our paperwork. That helps the teachers because it is more efficient use of time, and goodness knows we all have more paperwork than we need to deal with, but we try and find the most efficient way we can to do that, and every time we're able to achieve some efficiencies in managing things electronically, that does free up some time for instruction and planning. The chart that you see is what is happening. Let's see. The software is broken into different modules, and I wanted to give you an overview because it is somewhat complicated. The IEP and the MTSS modules, that is for special ed, obviously, and for low average, low achieving children. That software cost us about $248,000 a year. Because the state has worked on adopting a version of what we have developed here, and they're in the final stages of that now, but they put it off this past summer. So they are giving us money, and you'll see in the revenue column, they're giving us $198,000 to offset the cost of what we had been paying for the first semester. So we still hope that it's turned on in January, and then in the spring, as we move across, DPI picks up that cost for those first two modules, and that essentially becomes free to us. So that's a long-term recurring savings. The three modules below that, we were the first in North Carolina, again, to develop software for LEP, for gifted, for 504. That is the annual cost of the software in those modules. What's happening is if you look just below that at this $850,000 figure, that is how much money we are generating in something called Medicaid administrative claiming. That's sort of, it's one of the four streams of money in Medicaid that we get for serving children with disabilities. And that's money this district can use for an array of things, not just special ed. So the proposal is use money from that revenue source to pick up the cost of these three modules. Since the state is now picking up the cost of special ed and MTSS, we can't really cover that anymore, but we have conveniently generated a source of revenue that can. The final, moving back in that same row, the $80,000 is what we pay, that's $20,000 a quarter, in order to bring in that $850,000. And then at the bottom, well, I'm sorry, and move across then, MAC, administrative claiming, is the source that we would use to pay for that software over time. Currently, there are no plans for the state to pick up those, but as more districts move into that area, we expect that will happen eventually. And in the long term, that would also be covered from our MAC funds. Then the final row is service documentation. That's also called fee for service. That's money we get when we actually provide speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, things like that to children who are eligible but also happen to be special ed. That's generating around $1 million a year for us. We are paying a % off the top of whatever we get. This is just like when we go to the doctor's office and they have somebody who's sitting there doing billing. You can do it yourself or you can contract with somebody to do it for you. It is immensely complex. It's another one of those areas I've learned a whale of a lot more about than I ever wanted to know. But we feel like it's much more cost effective to pay a company to do that for us. We pay 15% off the top of whatever we receive. But moving forward in the future, what will happen is that percentage will drop. When the state picks up and provides the software for free, then our percentage drops to 10%. So that's the overview. Questions?
Questions of Sam, board?
This is small potatoes compared to all the other finance stuff you're dealing with right now, but we try and pay our way as we go.
Well, thank you, Sam, for the work
Thank
you
you.
do. We appreciate you. This time I'll recognize Dr. Karen Roseborough. I believe Karen has 2 items to discuss with us tonight. One, the Family Engagement Workshop Series, and second, the American Reading Company contracts. Dr. Roseborough. I'll place you on pause for just a moment, Dr. Roseborough. Board, we have a policy that says that our meetings need to adjourn at 10 p.m. We are not through our discussion items. And so, board members, I know that you would like to go ahead and take care of the business in front of us this evening. They probably, I do believe, lovingly call this the Buddy Rule, if you know Buddy Collins, who served on this board. So do I have a motion that we extend past our 10 p.m. Time frame?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Taylor, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Roseborough.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and present our proposal for the Family Engagement Series and then move into the art contract pieces for American Reading Company. What we have before you this evening is that we have several of our Inspire 340 schools. 4 of our Title I schools will be participating in a 3-day workshop with Dr. Karen Mapp on family and engagement and community partnerships. Dr. Mapp is the faculty advisor and director of education policy and management out of Harvard University, and Dr. Mapp has served as a consultant with the U.S. Department of Education. So we will have several schools within our district participating in this training. It is 3 days where they will focus on redesigning family engagement at the district level and within their schools, designing family engagement events, and then engaging families in learning throughout the year. You can reference the schools that are participating in the workshop experience, and we will launch our family engagement series on October the 19th, where Dr. Mapp will do a keynote address to our district. Are there any questions?
No, I'm excited. This is
I am
a
too.
great
I'm
opportunity.
very excited for her to come.
Mr. Var's excited.
I'm gonna move into the-
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And as you know, American Reading Company has been part of our turnaround strategies for Inspire 340 schools. And so at this time, we have several schools that are with us tonight. So I will recognize those principals since they have been with us throughout the course of this evening's meeting. So if you would just stand when I call your name. We have Ashley Academy, Cook Literacy Model School, Easton Elementary, Petrie Elementary, North Hills Elementary, and Mineral Springs Middle. They are requesting contract renewal for the Supplemental Reading Company, American Reading Company, which is a program that is based on project and thematic-based aligned curriculum that dives deeper into content learning through the love of reading. Several of our Inspire 340 schools, several of our low performance schools are implementing all or some of the components of American Reading Company, and the schools before you tonight have asked that you review their data in terms of what strengths happen with their pilot sites for American Reading Company, as well as opportunities for improvement. And they also provided you with a rationale for continuing on with the program, because several of them saw successes in the targeted grade levels that they implemented with this past year. What will be different from the implementation process from the previous year is that we will have a learning leadership series where our principals would get professional development on how to lead the professional development model of American Reading Company using a continuous improvement lens and focus on implementation and monitoring in this investment. And so from there, we hope that sustainability efforts will be evident throughout their schools, but they will be differentiating their approaches again this year, implementing different components based on the needs of their schools. And so I hope you took some time to review their presentations that they put together that was very unique to each school. Are there any questions?
No, and I think also just on school visits, being able to see the impact and as the principals have shared what that kind of means, especially I know you can see the difference, and that helps us to be able to not just see it in a presentation, but actually see it in the classroom and in the school. So thank you, principals, too, for pointing that out to us as well. Thank you, Dr. Roseberg. Ms. Parker, do you have a question?
Thank you.
I have a comment and a question. I would ditto exactly what our chairwoman said, because the classroom that I volunteer in, they use it. It's neat to see kids get excited about picking a book up. So it is absolutely wonderful. Question I have. When the principals are trained in staff development, will that be something they regularly do at a staff meeting? Will they be leading staff development with just their staff, or will we be doing it combined, or do we have a plan for that?
It's a combined effort. They have coaching on site where the teachers will provide get professional development on site through American Reading Company. So American Reading Company provides on-site coaching in real time while they're utilizing the program. The leadership series is new this year. We didn't have that last year, and that will be 5 days of professional development to help the principals with identifying what the look-fors are, how to identify how students are implementing their power goals in the classroom. Power goals are goals that students set for themselves based on their individual levels, and then also how to monitor and enrich the total school environment through school-wide reading. They call it the 100-book challenge, where students are challenged with making sure that they are reading on a continuous basis and developing a love for reading, not just content reading.
So the professional development is for them, for what they look for, but not professional development for them to take back and do.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions, board members? Thank you, Dr. Roseberg.
Thank you.
Okay, Building and Grounds Committee report, Ms. Lyda Calvert-Hayes.
Okay, we got right much, but I'm going to move right through, so hold on. Okay, we had the naming of the baseball stadium at North Forsyth. We talked about that, and we decided that this will go in for an advertisement for the paper. For Gene Bowles. He was a coach at North Forsyth for over 32 years, and he coached many sports while he was there. He is deceased now, and he did die in 2015. But from what we heard, he just sounded like just an outstanding person, outstanding teacher, and outstanding coach. Also, we have, we talked about the 218-220, which we've talked about up here also, the capital project spending plan, and we went over details on that, and that has been mentioned also in some monies maybe for surplus. Also, we talked about Captain 219 maintenance and capital project funded by the 216 bond project. We talked about Southwest Gym, replacing the gym floor and replacing the hallway ceiling tiles there also. We talked about roof replacement at Old Town School in the pre-K area. We are doing some work in pre-K now, and we do need to do some work on the roofs also. We also talked about the R.J. Reynolds Stadium construction plans that were brought in for approval and design. That is, and let me reiterate that, no public monies are involved in that from our Winston-Salem schools. We did have surplus vehicles. You know I love to do that, but I can't really get into it tonight because I'm going to let you go home. But what we have a Chevy van, 1995, if you're interested. Here's a blue light special. We got another one, another Chevy van, 1992, 2 of them. If Chevy's your thing, here's 2 vans waiting for you. We've got 2 Ford Taurus, 2001, and another one, 2001. Now, I'm not going to tell you what's the matter with it. You'll have to go and check it out yourself. We have a 1999 Dodge 1-ton truck, and it's got a little misfortune on it too, but like I said, go look at it, go look at it. And here we go, a 2003, this is our latest model, 2003 Crown Victoria, and I think that's what the Highway Patrol rides into. So, you know, if you want one of those, we got it ready to go. We also have 2 dump trucks. A lot of construction going on. If you're interested in an 82 dump truck or 80 dump truck, step right up. They've seen better days, but they're rolling. If you're interested in that, please go to gov.deal.com and put your bid in. If not, all of these will end up in the vehicle graveyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calvert-Hayes. Ms. Clark, curriculum committee report.
I can't top that, but, so I'll just be fast. Curriculum, we had fun, as we always do. Invite you all every third Tuesday of the month. It is an open meeting. We met our new Director of Elementary English Language Arts, Dr. Catherine Keir, and we met the new Director of Science K-12, Mr. Dave Delayed. So we just heard from them. And then we also looked, Sarah Harmon, our Health and PE Character Education Program Manager, proposed some grade level changes for resources relating to reproductive health and safety education in both the elementary and the middle school levels. And we recognize that Dr. Amy Nail is retiring. She's not here tonight. I was going to do it again, but
yes, she is.
Oh, is she? Where's oh. So thank you in front of everybody for all that you've done. Bless you.
We will miss you. Board members, that concludes our discussion items. We now move into action items. Okay. First, up for consideration, the approval of the 2018-19 CCIP LEA Title I plan. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, second. Mr. Johnson. Do I have discussion, board members? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider adoption of the 2018-19 budget resolution. So I have a motion by Vice Chairman Barr. I have a second by Ms. Parker. Do I have discussion, board members? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Did everybody vote? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. I can't see y'all. Thank you. Next, consider adoption of a proclamation of Disability History and Awareness Month. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Clark, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of Public Consulting Group contract extension. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Parker, do I have a second? Ms. Clark, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the Scholastic Inc. Professional Development Contract. Vice Chairman Barr, second. Mr. Johnson, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the American Reading Company's contract. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Taylor, do I have a second? Mr. Johnson, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of On Track Press, Inc. consulting contract. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Clark, second. Ms. Parker, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the Curriculum Associates contract for Kimmel Farm Elementary School. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Taylor, second. Mr. Johnson, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the surplus vehicles. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Calvert Hayes. Second. Ms. Motzinger. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the abatement, replacement of gym floor, and replacement of the hallway ceiling tiles at Southwest Elementary School. Mr. Singletary, second. Mr. Johnson, any discussion? I know we talked about this at Building and Grounds. All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of replacement of pre-kindergarten building roof at Old Town Elementary School. So I have a motion by Mr. Singletary, second. Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. We have, let's see, we added item L, and that would be to remove November 21st, 2018 as a school makeup day. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Calvert Hayes, second. Ms. Parker, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. That concludes our action items for this evening. We will move into our consent agenda, and we do have 2 items on the consent agenda. One, approval of meeting minutes for September 11th, 2018, and approval of the general personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Parker, somebody down in this direction. All in favor? Motion carries. That brings us to public comments.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2. You're watching Cable 2.